Today on Doomed! Fresh off a complete failure of an attempt at a red wave, the right wing, for a split moment, maybe for a quarter of a minute, the day after the midterms, they thought maybe our whole anti-LGBTQ, attacking trans kids tirades, maybe that's not connecting with the American people, being that they have rejected an election where we made those the number one issue. And then they immediately went right back to doing the thing they do, and that's going on their anti-LGBTQ tirade and attacking trans people, and also sort of, I guess, football spiking after a mass shooting at a LGBTQ bar in Colorado. And this just seems to be, this is the direction they're going to continue to go no matter how many elections it loses them. But we can fight back. And regardless of them feeling, I guess, empowered by Twitter's new owner, they are definitely not winning this one. I mean, based on the midterm election results. And joining me now to discuss what's been going on, hold on, let me pull us up on the feed here. I just realized I didn't pull us up yet. Is my guest today. She is the clinical instructor at Harvard Law Cyberlaw Clinic and an LGBTQ advocate, Alejandra Caraballo. Oh my God, I did exactly what I said I was going to do. Caraballo. Alejandra, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, good to be here.
Now, I did say, after saying your name absolutely right the first time you told me how to pronounce it, that I'm going to get it right off air and then immediately blow it on air. And I delivered.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works.
But thank you so much for joining me. People who aren't familiar with you might actually know you via your Twitter account at squeer. So, you know, you've been all over the place online, constantly fighting back against the right-wing smears against really anyone. But obviously the focus from the right has been on LGBTQ people with a specific sort of sick obsession with trans people. But you recently had the honor, and I don't know if other people realize this, but you have the honor of, I think, being the very first non-crypto account, non-tech bro startup entrepreneur guy account, non-right-wing, far-right, Andy No, Ian Miles Chong, every far-right winger in the book. You're the first person not in any of those categories who I believe I've seen Elon Musk actually reply to since he's become Twitter's owner.
Now that I think about it, there's actually one other person, and what's made the company is Stephen King.
That's true. But, you know, Elon Musk has some sort of weird soft spot for Stephen King. He seems to be a big fan, actually, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think you could tell that actually kind of hurts him a bit. I think, you know, to have one, like, probably an author that he reveres, like go after him in that way.
It's really funny to watch the kid gloves whenever he has to reply to Stephen King. It's like Stephen King's like, I'm never buying one of your products again. I have a Tesla and I'm looking to get rid of it right away. You have ruined this website, Elon Musk, sir. And Elon Musk is like, your input would be appreciated, Mr. King.
He's like the crown emoji for Stephen King.
He did. And then one of his followers tried to diss Stephen King, and Elon Musk immediately was like, no, don't you dare. Stephen King is one of the most creative minds of our time. And I was like, whoa, this guy really does have a soft spot for Stephen King.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. That man like writes 2 books like every year, and has been writing books for what, like close to 50 years now, and is like, how many movies have been made? It's crazy, just, you know, how one mind just created all that. So yeah, there's no way you could ever just. And he's a true mensch too. So
right. I have to turn your volume up all the way because it seems like people are saying that you're a little bit too low. I'll put my volume lower too. There we go. Can I get a quick mic check?
Okay.
Oh, perfect. There we go. So, I hear some feedback now on my end of my
Okay.
voice.
Yeah, here, I'll turn your voice. There we go. Is that better?
That should work. I'm gonna put you up all the way, and I'll put myself down a little bit, and that way that should fix things.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So why don't we talk a little bit about why Elon Musk decided to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I spoke with the Washington Post last week. I was visiting family and like on vacation, and I get a media request to speak with the Washington Post, and I was like, okay, they wanted to hear about this accounts being reinstated, and I gave kind of my honest opinion because I think the accounts that had already been stated were already kind of pretty bad in terms of pretty much all of them. What they had in common was their targeted harassment of trans people. At least the first ones that came back, like um, I would say like Babylon B and Jordan Peterson, but they weren't suspended. They were locked. Like they could have deleted the tweet and come back at any time. They just decided not to. But people like James Lindsay and Megan Murphy, like they had suspended accounts, like permanently suspended. So, pretty much all the first accounts that came back. And I mean, this was on the Sunday. Like these accounts were coming back on like the Sunday of the Club Q shooting. So it was like, oh yeah, it's Trans Day of Remembrance. 5 people have been killed, 17 people have been shot in a queer bar in Colorado Springs, 2 trans people dead on Trans Day of Remembrance. And by the way, Twitter is bringing back all of the like most transphobic voices. It just felt like an absolute slap in the face, I think, for a lot of people, particularly the people that were targeted by some of these folks in the first place. Um, and so it's just but there was no indication we had no way of knowing because obviously he brought back Trump um, that Saturday, and he brought back Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal account and brought back Jordan Peterson. But he didn't. He put a poll about Trump. He didn't put a poll about everyone else. He just started bringing back these other accounts, and there was no way of knowing whether or not these were larger accounts, smaller accounts. If much smaller troll accounts were being brought back, what the extent of this was. Some of the bigger accounts it was noticeable because it's pretty immediate, right? Like the right wing accounts would circulate when they would come back online. Um, but it was just in that context, and then it's just like, okay, well now you're going to bring back everyone in a mass amnesty because they had the poll, right, that Elon put out, I think, like Tuesday, and it was like mass amnesty. Like your only thing is that they haven't broken the law or engaged in spam. Okay, well, are we going by U.S. law? Because if you're going by U.S. law, that means like someone could literally be posting like, you know, the Jews should be put in ovens, like that would not violate the law in the United States under Brandenburg. Under the Brandenburg test, that is not a direct incitement to violence, even though, as we know it commonly, in more like lay terms, that is an incitement to violence, an incitement of hatred. And so, like, there is no metric or disclosure or transparency around what accounts were going to be brought back for what violations, like the how egregious the violations were, so we could, or how, like, they were going to review it, because they were already having a hard time keeping on top of reviewing accounts when they had a full staff, and that was just as the day went on, right? Now they were going to have to make decisions around potentially hundreds of thousands or even millions of suspended accounts with a fraction of the staff and no clear guidance, no transparency. So, it could have been everything from neo-Nazis to far-right white supremacists. I mean, hell, even freaking out like ISIS accounts. Like, do we even, like, if they had just been, like, there may be an argument that they violated the law more there because of terrorism laws and the ways those things apply, but still, it just seems like there was just I think the quote that I gave was like opening the gates of hell, because like we don't know what accounts are going to be coming back, how quickly they're going to be coming back. We don't even know if accounts that have been engaged in state-sponsored like disinformation campaigns, right? So like Iranian, Chinese, Russian bot accounts and bot networks could be brought back online. Like we have no idea, like, all of those things. So it's really difficult to really tell like what accounts are going to be coming back. And so that's what I conveyed to the Washington Post. And I was like, look, if this essentially goes as it seems like it's going to go, Apple and Google should take a serious look at booting Twitter off the App Store until they get their house in order, because they can't just derail all of their content moderation and bring all these people back and then just basically turn it into $8 chan. Like it's just, yeah, and like we've already seen it. Like I've seen it in my mentions, and this is despite the night that Elon took over, I used Blockbot and Block Party to engage in like a massive block, which I had not done previously, but I just knew what was coming, so I did that. And I probably blocked like 200 to 300,000 accounts, and despite that, like my mentions are constantly full of like Nazi shit. Like I'm not even joking. Like I've had to report several times, like just out and out like Nazi accounts with like 88s and or 1488 or flags or Nazi coded references, death threats. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And so um, it's just crazy. And I have alt accounts that monitor like I just because of the way the algorithm works, I have alt accounts that monitor kind of a lot of different areas like gender critical accounts and far right extremists and others, so that like I can just see that content like that I'm looking for very quickly by switching accounts. And it just the explosion of anti-Semitism as well. I mean, it coincided with Kanye, but that's the other aspect of it, is like the amount of anti-Semitism and transphobia that just got unleashed is just insane.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you've. It's not even just oh, I've seen it or oh, you've seen it. I mean, researchers with basically access to Twitter's fire hose, basically like the unfiltered stream of all the tweets, have been able to do the data analysis on what's being posted on Twitter, and they said it's way up all the sort of various hate speech. I mean, one they got really specific too in terms of like the N-word being used up like 500% more since Elon Musk took over. So this isn't even just like someone saying, "Oh, this is what I'm seeing on my account." This is on Twitter as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even just Elon taking over kind of saw an immediate surge. And if I was looking on like 4chan and the Donald forum, and basically they were just giddy. Like a lot of these like extremist forums were very giddy, and like some of them were plotting out like how they would come back, testing the waters. Like I think a lot of the explosion in hate speech the first night was just them testing the waters of like what they could get away with. And in many ways, the automated moderation has like can catch a lot of the more egregious examples, but it oftentimes is very difficult to catch. One of the things that Twitter has always lagged in is video and images, in terms of those kinds of things being utilized to spread hate. So if like multiple times like I've had just like terrible like depictions of like a trans person being hanged, like literally quote like replied to me in my tweets, and I've reported it, and then I've gotten like a response back in a few minutes like, oh, that doesn't violate the terms of service. And I'm like, this is literally depicting like a character, a really terrible caricature of a trans person being hanged. Like I don't like, how does that not, like that is like direct incitement, it's a depiction of violence. But their systems weren't set up because it's easier to catch text. And they're constantly have to train the algos because people know that, okay, you can't say the N word. So they'll use another term, or like how the what became kind of reclaimed, but they would use like the three parentheses is what used to be used like to reference Jewish people. Like it's a constant moving target. Content moderation is hard because if you try to moderate for something like a direct slur, people will figure out another way to essentially say the same thing in a coded way to the people that are in their in group. And so it's always difficult, and video in particular has always been hard. And so oftentimes like you have this like kind of terrible choice where it's like, okay, if I report this on my own, it's probably going to be up for days or weeks, and I don't want this to be up. So let me quote retweet this and tell my followers to mass report it. And but that risks spreading it even further, right? And it's like it's always been a kind of terrible system. It's not always been great. I know but like a lot of it is also the deterrent effect. Um, like because people know that content moderation would typically enforce egregious violations, it kind of kept the worst abuses in check, especially I think with some larger accounts because they knew if like they would go far too over the line, they would get booted. Um, but with basically all the accounts coming back and having no permanent repercussions for their suspensions, um, there is no deterrent effect, and in many ways they're emboldened now. And so I think you're seeing like a targeting of Jewish people, LGBTQ people, people of color, women, just basically almost everyone that's not a white man is particularly being targeted in very vicious ways. And I think pretty much all of my friends have done it. And the number of people I know that have locked down their accounts in the last 2 weeks just because of the vitriol that they're receiving is tremendous. And it's silencing a lot of people. And that's what's always missing from this free speech discussion, is that when people are engaged in that kind of targeted harassment and that targeted abuse, people will just stop posting and they'll leave. And that is a way to enforce, you know, like through essentially through targeted harassment, the silencing of targeted demographics.
Right. No, absolutely. It's it's pretty simple, and they don't seem the right doesn't seem to get this, and that includes Elon Musk. Twitter's rules, pre him purchasing it, wasn't because there's some like woke army of of far left people running Twitter. No, it's because in order for them to survive, they had to make their platform a space welcome to the vast majority of people. So advertisers would say, oh, this is a space where we would like to put our brand on and our ads on. And because we know it's not, we know our ad's not going to show up next to something really horrible and terrible. And it's that simple. And it's obvious, unless you want to live in your fantasy world where all these left wingers were running Twitter, and then Elon Musk came and made it this amazing platform with no more leftists. And then the advertisers went, "Oh no, we must leave because of Elon Musk's new plans." Then I guess if you live in that fantasy world, you can believe what you want. But normal people will see that, oh, these rules were there so advertisers would advertise. When you take away these rules, you lose a large portion of your advertisers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that's missing from the conversation a little bit as well, because this is all occurring in Twitter in 280 characters, so it's lacking a lot of nuance. Um, is that, in particular, you know, conservative accounts that were tweeting about tax policy were not being censored. Conservative accounts that were talking about cutting Social Security or, cutting government, expanding police, supporting police in general, kind of conservative like issues, right? Or being, anti-abortion, all of those things in general, if they were within the general bounds of debate, like they were not getting censored. They're getting their message out there just fine. Who are the two accounts that got censored? Or I won't even say censored, that got moderated and really like made this whole thing, like kind of kicked this whole thing off. In the first place was Babylon Bee, right? They were engaged in like the direct targeted misgendering of Rachel Levine, who is transgender. And it's, and they're like, oh, it's all right and this and that. But like, it's a knock-on effect, right? Like if they're able to go that viciously after a public official like that like sends a signal to other people to then go after smaller trans accounts. It's not just that in isolation, right? And it's just really that they wanted to bully trans people, and they want to say racist stuff. Like it's not about actual like economic policy. It's not about social policy. It's not about any of this. It's literally just about spreading hate, and like that's what they're willing to say. Oh, we free speech or whatnot. No, that like, and this has been empirically proven and by some of Twitter's own research, right? So they tried to look at 8 different countries with different languages, and they put out a report. I believe like it was about a year ago. Um, they essentially put out a report looking at if there was any bias in terms of their algorithms, and the content that it served. And they found that in 7 of the 8 countries, conservative content was favored by their algorithm, mainly because it relied more on feeling a more emotional content that instilled kind of the main drivers, which is like fear, anger, disgust. Um, and then the one country that was the exception was Germany. And what did Germany have different? Very strict hate speech laws. That's why you get those notifications on occasion that say like, oh, we found, we reviewed it under Germany. That has to be reviewed under 24 hours. And what they found is that it actually the conservative bias in their algorithm disappeared when they strictly enforced hate speech laws. So it was kind of a damning indictment of like saying like a lot of the bias from this is like it's being fed by the algorithm, and the reason why people are emboldened by it is because the algorithm favors that kind of content. And I don't think there's not a real nuanced discussion about that.
Right. Right. So let's actually we'll come back to Twitter and basically the online space in a minute, but let's actually talk about what's been going on offline too. Like I mentioned up top, because and I should say that this isn't to say that what happens online is different than what happens offline. No, in fact, I purposely don't use that term like IRL in real life because you know being online has become a part of real life. Like people go online. It's not like it was like 10 years ago or even or 20 years ago where it's like, oh, you could just log off and stay away from. No, people have to go online for their work, for to socialize with people. I mean, especially post since the pandemic, where online life has been just as much, socializing online has become just as much a part of life, regular life, everyday life as it is. So we just about less than a month ago got done with the midterm elections, where Republicans were expecting this big red wave, and lo and behold, the red wave never came. It was a red a drizzle, if even that. They basically completely blew it. And after this happened, you saw some of these people who made the culture wars their like flank, their main thing. Oh, wait a second. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe people thought we were weirdos. Maybe people thought we were, out of touch. We were, instead of talking about issues that people cared about, and tons of polling came out after the midterms to show the issues that people cared about were abortion rights, democracy, and economic issues like inflation. And Republicans decided to not focus on any of those. Well, one of them, the abortion rights, they couldn't focus. I mean, they had to run away from that because their position is the losing position with the American people. And then the other two issues, well, the other one, democracy, is also one they have to run away from because that's another issue where they're the ones who are trying to erode it. So if you care about those two issues, you're not voting Republican. But they could have made their bread and butter issue, like what they say, kitchen table issues, they love to say. And they didn't. Instead, they went full on board with the culture war stuff. And I say culture war stuff because to me, it's not culture war stuff, but that is what it is to them. And that's how they view it in that lens. So I'm putting it in how they're viewing it strategically for now. But for them, these issues, LGBT rights, specifically attacking trans people, is like a major thing. And they think that they thought, at least, that the public would respond to that, and they didn't. In fact, the public rejected that in ways that I don't think, if you go back decades, I don't know if there ever was a midterm election where the incumbent president's party did so well in a midterm election. It was a complete shellacking, and people have really been dropping the ball too on just how bad it was for Republicans. Sure, they just eked out a win in the House with a few seats, which, in my estimations, actually, if you were going to lose the House, this is this. If you were going to even hold the House by a few seats for the Democrats, this, I think, is actually a better scenario, because in 2024 they'll be able to easily point the fingers at Republicans as to why nothing got done over the past 2 years.
There's also I don't know, I get to House procedure, but with such tight margins, if they're able to hold unanimity in the Democratic caucus and they can peel off like 5, 6, 7 Republicans, they can do a discharge petition and they can get bills passed without the Republican majority. So even still, like there's still a path for some decent bills to get through.
Right. And so, on top of that, there's the Senate, which the Democrats look like they're about to expand. And then this is the part where people sort of drop the ball on highlighting. Obviously, it's been talked about in a number of outlets, but really it should be a huge focus in a number of state, state Senate, state congressional races. Democrats won, and in a number of states, there are Democratic majorities in state houses where there haven't been Democratic majorities in decades. I mean, this was a complete failure on the right. And there was a split second after all this loss. I mean, you saw how depressed they were on their live streams. Charlie Kirk's stream was hilarious, watching him and Benny Johnson basically crying on air. But there was a moment where you thought maybe there was going to be some reflection. They were like, did we focus on the wrong issues? And then obviously the answer is yes, but instead a moment later they go, no, we're going to just double down on those losing issues now.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I think what the HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, put out a report. I think it was like $50 million spent on anti-LGBTQ, primarily mostly anti-trans ads nationwide. And I think part of it is like, I think there's always this like talk about like Democrats living in a bubble in their big cities and they don't know how rural people live. And it's like,
excuse me,
I don't know. I think like the people in the bubble right now are all the people who are convinced that like anti-trans policies were going to be some roadmap to success. I think they pointed to that particularly, after like what happened in Loudoun County last year in Virginia, and with Youngkin winning in Virginia, that maybe that was a model to kind of run those culture wars, and that's what really picked up in the legislative sessions this spring. But it's a bubble. Like, these people all only follow each other online, and they don't interact with anybody like outside of their immediate bubble unless it's to troll people or to target people. And so they don't really understand, like, the average person. Like, I think trans people know this intuitively. Most people don't give a shit about us. Like, they just don't care. Like, they're apathetic, right? And like, that's not good when we have such disparate healthcare outcomes, such disparate housing and employment and socioeconomic outcomes. Like, that's not good because we can't get the help that we need. But on the other hand, like, when you have this like just massive campaign of hate, people just don't care. Like, they don't know trans people, they don't interact with trans people, and so I think they've kind of learned I guess I don't think they've learned it, but I guess they've kind of seen what happens. And I think in the UK, the polling, they did a really in-depth polling by YouGov, and I think the UK has had the most intense media campaign against trans people for the last 4 years, and they've only moved the needle like a few percentage points. But even among the most transphobic people, the amount that issue mattered to them was like almost nil. Like, they just didn't care. They made some people more transphobic and outwardly like hateful, but they honestly didn't care. They don't care about the GRA. They didn't care about trans healthcare. They're concerned about being able to just not die of cold this winter for not having heating fuel. So it's, again, like what you said, like it turns out that like people care about more bread and butter issues. And it was just bizarre to me because in the lead up we had the whole like crime moral panic that was happening, like especially being led by the Post and Lee Zeldin and the New York media. They were like, oh, this is like crazy, crime is up, da da da, da. And it turns out like New York City had 3 of the top 10 safest counties in the country. Per capita is safer than Oklahoma by like double, and it just didn't match reality, and it was just this media hype, right? You could see the number of mentions of crime versus the actual crime rate, like just completely came unglued from each other. And so, and then they're like, well, why aren't Democrats focusing on the things that matter, like crime? And it like turns out that people are still pissed off about abortion. They're still pissed, and like inflation was a major issue, but I don't think they necessarily faulted Biden. And if you look internationally, the United States has probably been one of the best countries in terms of inflation. Like we've fared probably the best. So it's not anything necessarily to do with Biden's policies. It's just an international like demand crunch coming out of COVID, and it's just yeah, I don't know. It just really is. You would think they would learn that lesson, but it, like you said, it took 2 minutes, and then they were immediately doubling down, right? Um, Matt Walsh was immediately going on and immediately saying like, "No, we won on this issue. We had candidates that ran on this issue," and I was like, Carrie Lake, one of her closing messages was about gender affirming care. Tudor Dixon ran a bunch of horrible campaign ads about trans people in Michigan. You had Lauren Boebert, who's been extremely transphobic, nearly losing her seat by only a few hundred votes. And so a lot of the people that were explicitly running on this lost in swing states. They were saying, well, DeSantis like had the largest margin, and I was like, I think Florida's just a special case because they kept saying Democrats are losing Latina people, they're losing Latina people, they're moving Republican, and then when you look at like Latina people in Nevada and New Mexico and Arizona, like they're actually moving a little bit more towards the left and or staying neutral. And then when you look at Florida, it's only like South Florida where it's moving towards the right. So Florida's just a special case. I grew up there. I honestly don't know what the hell is going on. I was just there last week, and it's it's so different from when I grew up. Like the amount of political shirts that I saw, like the kinds of billboards I saw, like it just is it's so different. Like there wasn't this kind of sense of meanness, I think, behind the politics that there is there with DeSantis. But I think now they're doubling down. They're saying, well, look at DeSantis. He's someone who's an example of how to competently fight the culture war. And like, I don't know if like they're really fight. I mean, the policies that they're passing are horrendous. I don't want to minimize it. But when I went to Florida, like, there's still a shit ton of gay bars. There's still drag events. There's still trans people, right? Like, so I don't know what they're really accomplishing. They like DeSantis is like trying to drive this stuff out, and it's making things horrible for LGBTQ people in the state, and it's pushing all this stuff. But like, it's just he's all like he's a paper tiger, and I like if he is on a debate stage with Trump, he is going to get impaled.
I don't. That's the thing. Let's actually talk a little bit about this because this episode is obviously I didn't want to just talk about because I do have to say this. I have been feeling incredibly optimistic over this past couple of weeks because it really does seem like, and maybe you disagree and you probably have a better pulse on what's going on here than I do. But I do feel like there has been a larger public backlash against some of this stuff. I really do feel like, while there's been some, and let's go back to Twitter because that seems to be where the current war is being waged in online politics. But I do feel like while Elon Musk has decided to bring back some of these horrible accounts, I feel like it's actually like activated more people to even just like the left of center to like speak up and like say something against him, and in general against the right too. Like I've been seeing more right-wing accounts saying horrible shit but with like really low followers, obviously like sock puppets and low level accounts or whatever, But then I've been seeing like left-wing accounts that I've been following for years who, in my estimation, should have been much bigger, all of a sudden regularly getting tons of retweets and their reach growing exponentially as people sort of read what they're saying and saying, you know what, this is someone who we should put out there to hear more as this website tries to take this right-wing turn.
Yeah, I think in particular, um,
Like
I
I feel
have
like your stuff has been going, like your stuff's been getting out there and rightfully so, and I feel like Elon Musk had to respond to you because you're so powerful now.
so like just as like an objective metric, last month in October and November still got one more day, but last month in October I had 51 million impressions. In September I had 38 million impressions. So far for November I had 90 million impressions, meaning like my reach has just been much further. Granted, I will say like you notice what gets amplified more, and talking about Twitter and Elon, it's like this like vortex, and like you get driven a bit by the algorithm in some ways because you're incentivized. You're like, if I tweet this about Elon or like this or that, like it's probably going to get like 10,000 likes versus like if I tweet about this article that I read that I thought was like pretty interesting on this issue, it might only get a few hundred or 1,000. And so it's like, okay, trying to balance that out, but like because it's not about the metrics. Like it's for me it's about the but like it is trying to realize like what the reach is though. Like that's how I like try to see like what the algorithm is potentially favoring or what people are favoring, because I still a lot of my like account or posts about trans stuff like doesn't get nearly as far as like stuff about Elon, but I still post it because I think it's very important, and so I don't think that should drive any of it. But like you said, yeah, I think it's weird, but I think there maybe because a lot of people have left Twitter. There's a lot of people who are tweeting less. I've noticed there's a lot of my friends have gone private. So what may be happening is that there's more of a concentration in other accounts that have stayed on. Plus, everyone loves to watch a car wreck. So I think there's a lot more people liking and retweeting, but maybe not necessarily engaging as much. Because I do think like some of my engagements, even though I've nearly doubled my impressions, like the amount of profile visits and like mentions and everything are actually kind of don't correlate. So it's if you're trying to find some kind of object, because I don't have access to what's under the hood at Twitter to know what their numbers are. So the only way I can look is like, okay, what is my account doing? So yeah, I mean, I would say that, but I think in the grand scheme of things, in terms of like your sense of optimism about things, I don't share that. I mean, the fact that yesterday on Rachel Maddow, Nick, like she had to spend her A block talking about Nick Fuentes, I think shows we are in a very dark place. And I will say, like the way that Kanye has just, he's just been a catalyst for some of the worst anti-Semitism I've ever seen. Like in a way that has just mainstreamed it that I didn't ever think was possible. And what's worrying to me is that it's not that I think it's necessarily spreading. Like I don't think that like more people are necessarily becoming anti-Semitic. What I think is happening is that people who previously kept those views quiet or maybe had sympathetic views are becoming more vocal. And I think part of it is this is like the same thing that happened after Biden won, right? Like there's this like inherent backlash where they feel impotent that the political situation didn't favor them, and so now they feel like they have to double down and be more extremist. And so I think that's what's worrying for me is that we're seeing this kind of mainstreaming of anti-Semitism and Nazi style stuff. Like Tim Pool, like he's been hosting white supremacists for days. Like yesterday he had, obviously, he had Nick Fuentes and Milo and Kanye. It was like this anti-Semitism like orgy going on over there. It was just like talking about Jews control everything. It's just the worst stuff.
You know what though? Like I actually I'm one of the few people who probably do not fit in those categories and was on Tim Pool's show. And I gotta say, as someone who's been following his work for a long time, like it's not new. I mean, he literally has Cassandra Fairbanks running his heading his website. He employs the daughter of what's his face, the guy who runs VDare, Peter. Is it Peter Brimlow? I mean, so these aren't. This is not something new. But here's my thing. I totally agree with you that Kanye is a problem because he is a mainstream figure. Although I do think people. I mean, when's the last time Kanye was honestly relevant to the culture, like to like the mainstream pop culture? Like he hasn't put anything out in a long time. His star power was waning, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, like 2015, 2016, I think it was around the last time he was like really on top in terms of music.
Right, and it's not like you have all the other star power around him, rallying to his side. You have all of them basically turning on him, saying, we don't want a part of this. So it's not even like he has that support of other stars who will keep him propped up. I mean, will he have his hardcore fans who will go down with him? Sure, of course. But if you look at what's been going on, I think like this is creating this right wing. Let me use the word they use for. I don't agree with their use of it because they use it for like America's going to have a civil war. Tim Pool loves that one. But what we're seeing is a right-wing civil war right now with multiple different factions going after each other. I mean, if you look at Tim Pool's the reaction to Tim Pool's Timcast episode last night with Kanye and Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos, his audience turned on him. They are outraged at him. Is it gonna be like you're gonna see some huge drop off? Is Tim Pool gonna lose tons of subscribers? No. But the fact that there is groundwork there where these people are fighting with each other. I mean, you see it in something I'm involved in with James Lindsay.
Yeah.
These guys are turning against each other. I mean, if you look at James Lindsay's Twitter feed right now, it's him and other right-wingers going back and forth at each other now, going, okay, groomer, okay, groomer, okay, groomer. It's hilarious to see. It's like they love the NPC meme and like the current thing where all these like robot-faced individuals are basically just like, non-playable characters in video games are just repeating something. It is literally them turned against each other, repeating something back. It's if you got like, I don't know, like Alexa, like two Alexas talking to each other and they just keep going back and forth saying the same thing. Or like
two chatbots, yeah.
Yeah, or like, hey Google, and then another hey Google going, hey Google, they're going back and forth or something. It is, they're stuck using their talking points against each other, and when that happens, they just start repeating them back and forth. I mean, their terminology was already meaningless. For anyone who actually cares about about abuse against children, they've already completely the right has already completely demeaned all terminology used to describe actual perpetrators of horrible things to children. They've completely perverted the words pedophile, pedo, groomer, grooming. They mean nothing in the original context anymore. To them, it's just, if it's someone who disagrees with me, especially if they're LGBTQ, we're going to throw these words at them. They've completely already destroyed that terminology. To see it then being used back and forth between the two of them, to see Tim Pool's audience yelling at him for not letting Kanye tell the truth about the Jews, and then Tim Pool's fans having to fight back saying, no, Tim Pool's an honest thinker, he agreed with Kanye but just wanted to. It's like hilarious to see them contort their positions to try to appease their insane base while going to war with each other. It is hilarious. And we're going to see this at an even larger level once Ron DeSantis and Trump go at each other even harder than they're already going at each other. I mean, I say we let them fight. We let them destroy each other. I mean,
Here's the risk, though. But here's the risk, though, right? So maybe Tim Pool's lesson from that is he comes back and was like, okay, well, now I got to be super anti-Semitic and not question it at all. And that there's a radicalizing effect because there's the way that the audience and the algorithms and like everything else just incentivize like kind of social norms within that group. Like, and you were mentioning even DeSantis and Trump, like if Trump decides to go like the hard anti-Semite, like Nazi route, and like DeSantis tries to get the like core of the what's left of the old Republican Party, even though DeSantis is not a moderate by any means, the worry is that the Nazis and the white supremacists went out. Like the Nick Fuentes wing of the party wins out, and then now you have an out and out fascist party going into 2024. I mean, so there's kind of two ways this plays out. I think there's kind of a self-immolation where this is kind of the dying gasps of like this, like demographic of white folks that are basically realizing that the demographics of the country are changing. Gen Z is basically fundamentally different. It's majority minority. It is nearly 20%, like according to the latest polls, like 20% LGBTQ, like, and they voted in numbers like young generations haven't in decades, right? In this most recent midterm, and so they realize they're losing the next generation. This is only going to get, as more and more time goes on, they know this is going to change, and this could be essentially the like kind of like distillation of like all that's left to the most radical components, and there's a danger in that, right? Like they can start trying to actually, like, we've already saw one insurrection, right? Like we're already seeing them try to deny election certifications in Pennsylvania and Arizona, and like 2024 things could get even crazier. I think my hope is, especially after these midterms, is that like most moderate voters and most others are going to see past this, and like Republicans are going to get destroyed in 2024 after this clown car. Because can you imagine a Republican debate stage with Kanye, DeSantis, and Trump? Like it's just going to be insanity.
No, but here's the thing: they won't allow Kanye on stage to say those things, and that's going to create more blowback with the base, who's going to then turn against the GOP for censoring Kanye. And the thing with this spreading. And it's certainly a concern that I obviously share with you, but I do think it's going to happen either way. Like there's not going to be a way to stop them in terms of this rhetoric right now. But in Tim Pool's case, for example, the reason that went the way it did yesterday, and I know this for a fact, is because Tim Pool has to skirt a very careful line because of YouTube. If he loses his YouTube channel, that's it. The dude makes millions of dollars a month from YouTube. It's why he feels like he could throw his money around to buy advertisement billboards in Times Square and pay for, I don't know if people know this, but I don't have any proof here, but there was a question I saw online as to whose private plane they were on in that photo with Kanye, Milo, and Nick Fuentes. I don't think it was Kanye's. I think Tim Pool rented the private plane for them to fly on, and the reason I think this is because, A, I know for a fact Tim Pool has done that before. He flies his crew around in private planes and when he travels. And on top of that, I don't know if people noticed this, but in that photo, Kanye, Milo, and Nick Fuentes, they aren't the ones taking the photo. If you look at the reflection in the mirror behind them, Tim Pool's brother was on that plane. He's the one who took the photo. So I'm pretty sure Tim Pool sent the plane. And you think Kanye was going to pay to go to Tim Pool's, you know what I mean? Like Kanye's not going to pay to go to Tim Pool's compound. Kanye doesn't even know who Tim Pool is, I'm sure. This was all like Nick Fuentes and Milo being like, oh, you got to go on this show. But anyway, that's where Tim Pool's money comes from. And he has to be very careful with YouTube. You'll always notice he's very careful with how he words things. Even when he says something, he's very careful. That's why he loves playing. And I was a the person on the receiving end of this, he loves playing the hypothetical games because that way he can say things hypothetically. In this scenario, I'm just putting forward to you in this, fantasy land, just to get a better view of your thoughts on these things. Because if he outright said something, he would get in trouble with YouTube, and then there would go his ride, his moneymaker.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about people like Tim Pool. They're because he made his like bones like covering the Occupy movement and kind of was like a darling for a little while of the progressive left in the early 2010s, and then started making that shift after like when Trump started running. And you're seeing a lot of like former Bernie folks, I think like Breonna Joy Gray and like a lot of others that were like big Bernie supporters now like going new right. For me, like as someone who like I was involved in Democratic Socialists, like I consider myself pretty leftist on a lot of issues. One of the things that really irked me in the 2016, I think even in particularly the 2020 elections, the people like Tim Pool didn't care about supporting Bernie or leftist politics or Occupy Wall Street because they had a deep sense that they wanted to make the system fairer, or that they wanted to really bring about systematic change. Is more that they wanted to tear the system down. There's this sense of nihilism that runs through a lot of these people. That is just, I want to tear the system down, and I don't care who does it, whether it's left or right. And this is a through line through history because it's the same people who went from being socialists in the 20s to being fascists in the 30s. Like, it's the same subset. It's like they just want power, they want a platform, and they want a voice, and they'll go whichever way. I don't think they truly believe anything. I think all they believe in is what gives them more of a voice and what will help bring down the system. And it's particularly Tim Pool, like, F that guy, because last week, he tweeted, that the Club Q was engaged in a, quote unquote grooming event, like victim blaming, right? And then, he's basically endorsing the violent rhetoric around like wood chippers that has been like endemic around libs of TikTok tweets and other far right tweets around LGBTQ people. And he like referenced it, was like, how do we have this talk about wood chippers and this is a grooming event? Like, this is what happens. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're literally victim blaming and justifying the violence. And that was happening like a day or two after the shooting. And that, to me, like last week, like on Tuesday, I was having a hard time, because it was like, it wasn't even the dog and pony show of like, oh, this, we're we don't want to politicize this. This is terrible. They should have been, victimized or shot up or anything like this, or deflection. No, it was straight to, they deserved it, right? And there was just this sense of escalation. And as someone who's been monitoring this for years, like I was reading an old article I was interviewed for in April with The Independent and also NBC News, and I basically like laid this exact what was going to happen out. And it's the worst when you knew this was going to happen and then it happens. And I already had a friend who is a far right researcher and monitors anti-LGBTQ people professionally, and they had a bit of a breakdown last week. I mean, there's something to be said when you feel like you're a Cassandra and you're warning about this stuff and people don't take it seriously. But sorry to leave on a bit of a sour note, but
I think that's where people who can step in and help out should sort of hear that call. I mean, I over the years, I've been doing this for way too long. And over the years, I've developed an incredibly thick skin, an impenetrable skin. And I feel like, when I go out and I, take someone on like a James Lindsay, who honestly, I am baffled by how little he has in terms of like, the guy has over 300,000 supporters on Twitter. Yet, like, you look at his interactions and it's like the same, like, 5 to 10 people constantly like replying and defending him. It's like, how big is his audience actually? Like, clearly it's not 300,000 people. But that's where if I can, or if like when people do something to fight back against some of these right-wing smear campaigns, I really do think like it helps take the burden off of people who are constantly having to fight these battles because they're directly affected by it, and they have to they do need to step away because we're all human. But like a lot of times they can, because a right wing or a right wing campaign against trans people, for example, how do trans people step away from that? That's there literally is an attack on their very identity, their very being. It's not like you could just step away because someone's making fun of you for something you said on Twitter or something, or like you just delete the tweet if you said something cringe, like in general, like you said, like I don't know, something completely not apolitical, just something people made fun of. You could just walk away from it. These campaigns against people for who they are is not something they could walk away from. So I think it's super important that people, and like you said earlier, like the public is it's while it's good they don't care about these issues in terms of like voting with these anti-LGBTQ right-wingers. It sucks because they don't care about these issues to step up and defend against these anti-LGBTQ right-wingers. So I think people should stand up and say like an attack on one person is an attack on all good people, and step up and say no more of this bullshit, these smear campaigns, these hate campaigns from the right. And that's my take on it. And I think I don't know, I know you feel a little bit more pessimistic, and you're probably right, but I'm ever the optimist with a show called Doomed, and so I'm trying to I do sort of I do think I don't know the timeline, but I do see, especially with younger people. I mean, I know you mentioned that earlier. I do think like, man, especially the midterms with Gen Z coming in and like really like being a huge part in putting a stop on those campaigns that were run on LGBTQ hate. I mean, that's something else. And I think like each generation younger, below that, will obviously continue to only further and further, push for progress.
Yeah, no, the younger generation definitely gives me a lot of hope. So I mean, yeah. It's definitely one of the things that like has sustained me a little bit and kept at least a little bit of optimism, especially after the midterms. But I think just as someone who monitors a lot of like the worst parts of the internet, it's I think it feels like some kind of vibe shift has happened. But hopefully it's not one that is just self-contained, and then they just kind of self-immolate over the next year, focusing on stupid stuff and going to war with each other. But yeah, but I have to run. It's been good talking with you.
Oh, no, I was about to wrap it up. This was really a perfect. I honestly, I can't believe it. I haven't invited you on earlier. This was fantastic. I hope you'll come on again.
Yeah, definitely. It's good.
Where can people? Clinical instructor at Harvard Law Cyberlaw Clinic and LGBTQ advocate Alejandra Caraballo. There we go. Where can people find you online? And I urge everyone to, if you aren't already, please go check out Alejandra's work. You right now will let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I've been trying to kind of spread out my socials now, because Twitter's kind of the main space that I'm most active on. You can find me at squeer underscore ESQUEER underscore on Twitter, squeer on Mastodon, squeer underscore on Instagram, and squeer underscore on TikTok. Pretty much all my socials are the same handle. So you can find me all on there. If you like more longer academic reads, I'm going to have 2 papers coming out this upcoming month. One in the CUNY Law Review dealing with interstate extradition around abortion, and another dealing with anti-trans experts in litigation, coming out in the Journal of Law, Medicine, and Ethics. So if you like more academic reads, those will be coming out soon. Otherwise, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, and I look forward to talking with you again.
All right. So yeah,
Take
have a
care.
good one.
Bye. All right, that was really fun. All right, folks. All right, let me quickly, because I noticed I didn't get a chance to really. We were talking about so many different things across the board that I just realized I didn't get a chance to go further into what I was talking about with Lindsay James. So you might remember, if you were watching the live stream last week, that during the second half of the show, Lindsay James did his. He's the guy who started the whole, or at least is like the guy who's taking credit for basically anyone he doesn't like. He quote tweets them on Twitter and says, "Okay, groomer." So he's the guy who called out, and he usually, obviously, focuses on LGBTQ people. And so earlier this year, he was at some event, and he posted a bunch of pictures, and the person he's in the picture with posted a bunch of pictures of them hanging out. And the person he's hanging out with in these pictures is Nikki Klein. And let me pull this up. There it is. And if you don't know who Nikki Klein is, you should check out, you should Google this group called NXIVM. NXIVM. They're basically a literal sex cult. And I'm not saying that as if it's some polycule type situation. No. This was a literal criminal activity going on. People were being brought into this group, this cult, as sex slaves, and they were literally branded. Horrible things. And the leader of this cult, a guy named Keith Raniere, and he's currently serving 120 years in prison for leading this cult. He was convicted. Let me actually pull up 1 second here. Let me go right. Let's pull up exactly what he is in prison for here, so I could get it absolutely accurate. He's doing time for... Oh, that looks weird. Where how do I get it in the... Give me a second. All right, I got to make the window smaller. Okay, he is doing time for sex trafficking, attempted sex trafficking conspiracy, racketeering conspiracy, forced labor conspiracy, wire fraud conspiracy, and racketeering. And this guy had an inner circle, Keith Raniere. He had an inner circle. And in that inner circle was former Battlestar Galactica actress Nikki Klein. And Nikki Klein, in her role as first of all, one of his closest associates, and I believe third lieutenant in command or something like that. She was married to Allison Mack, another actress, I think a Smallville actress, who was his second hand in command. And in their role, they would groom victims, literally groom victims to become sex slaves to Keith Raniere. And people are yeah. So people are sharing this photo of the OK Groomer guy literally hanging out with a groomer who And this is part of the courtroom trial proceedings. This is all on the books. This is what she did. And is she someone who's remorseful or has come out against this? No, 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 no. She has been his staunchest defender. Keith Raniere's staunchest defender. Nikki Klein's defended him. She is still part of the NXIVM group. She has been fighting to get his conviction appealed. And while she's doing this, more information is constantly coming out. And I should say that someone came out, and there's been multiple now, I think. But this wasn't like just like I saw someone saying, "Oh, okay, adults doing things with other adults." First of all, if you are literally being branded and brainwashed into a cult, that's not exactly consensual. But anyway, that doesn't even matter if you want to talk, if you want to argue their point, because there are victims who have come out saying they were, I believe one was 12 and another was 15. And there's a few more, I think, that were under the age of 18 who said that they were brought into the cult to have sex with Keith Raniere. And again, when you're underage, that is called rape. I mean, this is the OK Groomer guy. James Lindsay, the OK Groomer guy, who calls every LGBTQ person he finds online a groomer, literally hanging out with the groomer. He's called her a friend, so this isn't some like rando thing. There are multiple photos. There's a photo of them going on a road trip together. There is video of them from a year before to this where they're hanging out at a bar. And you might be saying, oh, did this all happen afterwards? You know, it's not fair if, like, you know, Nikki Klein was just a Battlestar Galactica actress and that's how he knew her. And then years later, this came out. These photos took place earlier this year. Keith Raniere was convicted, was sent to jail like two and a half years ago. The whole NXIVM thing unraveled in like 2018. You know how I know? Because go back to the 2018 Doomed Archives, my show. And that's right, you people might not know this if you're a new listener. 2018, I was already covering NXIVM. I was already talking about this group. Let me pull up exactly. Let me actually find out where this was so I can tell you all how far back you have to go. Let's see. I'm going to doomedcast.com. Let's scroll down here. Episode 18. We are on like episode 200 something now. Episode 18, May 2018. Fake news, real cult. NXIVM, the Knife of Aristotle, and the story so far. The Knife of Aristotle was their fake news website that they used to try to gaslight people with their version of the events of what they were being accused of being. They ran their own news website to try to control the narrative around their cult. So there you go. Go listen to that episode. It was with Brock Wilbur. He was. I wonder what happened with him. He was on top of this story years ago. I wonder. He was working on something surrounding it years ago. I'll have to update myself with. But he was. Check that episode out. All right, folks. Patreon.com/Matt Binder to support this show. If you can subscribe, I would be very appreciative. Sort of in a lull, like I've said over this past month or two. People, the economy has been rough for some people. I totally get it. So only if you could afford to do so, please consider becoming a paying subscriber. Also, you can go to youtube.com/MattBinder and drop a super chat. I will read your super chat in the second half of the show. And then you can also go to twitch.tv/MattBinder, connect your Twitch. If you're an Amazon, let me reset. Go to twitch.tv/MattBinder and follow me there. That's free, just like subscribing on YouTube is free. But also what you can do at Twitch is connect your Amazon Prime account, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, to your Twitch account, and you get a free Twitch Prime subscription every month. You get to give that to your favorite creator. What does that mean? At no extra cost to you. Amazon takes a small portion of your Amazon Prime subscription that you are already paying Amazon, and they give it to your favorite creator. It's basically like, being Robin Hood. You take a little bit from the amount you're already giving Amazon and you give it to your favorite creator. I'm saying this because I hope it's me, but even if you don't give it to me, that Twitch Prime subscription, please do give it to someone on Twitch who you enjoy, because it's certainly a more worthwhile use of that money than just letting Amazon keep the extra. What else? Doomedcast.com for the podcast version of this show. What else? Yeah. Oh, Thursday, I am doing a stream like the midterm stream I did with Lance from the Surfs, David Dole of the Rational National, Mike of the Humanist Report, and a whole cast of characters. Hold on, let me let you know who else. It's like a leftist. Olayami Alurin, and I'm sorry if I'm wrecking her name. I will know how to pronounce it come this Thursday. And also Illuminati is going to be on the stream. It's going to be a complete leftist powerhouse panel. We are going to attempt to do this semi-regularly, according to the current plans in the DMs. So check that out. Also, be sure to check out my other show, Scam Economy, at scameconomy.com. And we will now go to the second half of the show where I'll take your calls. I saw there were some haters in the chat, the super chat, and that's fine. I love the haters. I love the haters and the losers, like Trump would say. I would love it, especially if you call into the show. My Skype line is open. Doomed Live. Just search Doomed Live on Skype, and I will take your call. I love talking with people who I don't agree with, and we will have a very respectful discussion. Hey, remember Tim Pool invited me on, and I was on there for 2 hours plus, going back and forth with him. I mean, if I was bad faith, would I have sat down on an opposing, someone with opposing views and talk with them for so long? I also was on that other right-wing panel for the midterms a couple of weeks ago before I went on that leftist panel. So please call in and we can discuss. That's what it's all about, right? Engaging the marketplace of ideas, exchanging the ideas in the marketplace of ideas. And, discussing until the best ideas rise to the top. Like Macho Man Randy Savage would say, the cream of the crop. Ooh, yeah. All right, let's go to the second half of the show. Give me a second to refill my soda cup. If you are not watching live and you are not a Patreon subscriber, if you are watching live and you're a Patreon subscriber, just stick around. I'm not going anywhere. It's the same stream. I'm just going to take a quick 30-second to a minute break. If you are listening to the free podcast version of the show, this is where I say, I We'll see you next time on Doomed.
Ecological collapse, corporate fascism, corporate journalism, police brutality, voter suppression, austerity economics, educate the masses, rampant homophobia,
We got our first caller. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
What's up, Matt?
Hey,
You from Jamaica?
Dave from Jamaica. How are you doing, my friend? What are we going to talk about today?
I don't think you are exactly what you claim you are. I would say you're a conservative. What makes you a liberal? I'm pro-Green New Deal. Are you? Yes, really? Absolutely. No, I have watched the show. I've seen you completely come out and get really mad at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for some of the things in the Green New Deal.
You mean like free college for black people?
All right, we are back. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Oh, where's the little Doomed logo? There it is. I wanted to grab a clip. Here. Where is this clip? All right, phone lines are open. Doomed live on Skype. Also, I will read super chats as they come in. Oh, Spacco with a $20 super chat. Matt, please pass on my email to Alejandra and tell her I'm interested in civil legal strategies that Children's Hospital and Vanderbilt Medical can use against Walsh, Carlson, Libs of TikTok, and Musk's Twitter, but won't. All right, I'll check out that email. Hold on. I just hung up on you. I'm sorry. Call back in. I will get to you right away. Oh, another caller. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Second. Hello?
Hello.
Hey. Hi. My name is Charlie from Washington. You're really quiet because I'm holding on my phone here.
Whoa, I'm sorry. You're a little bit muffled, so I couldn't make that out. You might be a little bit too close to like the speaker on your phone or something. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There we go. That's much better. So, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Charlie from Washington. My pronouns are she, her. I also see Junior in the chat. Hi, chat.
Hey, would you say Charlie was your name?
Yeah.
Hey, Charlie, what would you like to talk about?
I just wanted to say thank you for having your previous guest on, and like you and the Majority Report, you guys have been throwing a lot of attention on like all the anti-trans shit, and as a trans person, like I really appreciate that. And also both this chat and the Majority Report chat are filled with really awesome and welcoming people. Like you guys have cultivated a really nice community there, and I'm happy to be a part of it. That's why I like watching you guys live.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very, I can't take all the credit. I'm very happy with my live stream viewers who a lot of people have told me that actually. So, kudos to all of you who watch this show. I really appreciate it that you're all so cool.
Yeah, I mean it's really good to like see such a friendly space for so many queer people in there. It's kind of unfriendly out there.
No, I hear you. I mean, it is. I mean, I hear you in terms of I see it, but I could only imagine, how it hits different. Being, based on all the hate that's out there against trans people. I don't like it obviously, and I think it's imperative that good people stand up against it, whether they are the ones on the receiving end of it or not. So that's just how I feel. So that's why I do what I do.
I do appreciate it. I'm coming up on my 1 year anniversary of HRT, and the before the year leading up to the 20th of December is when I started basically, and I spent the whole year leading up to that because I had read a whole bunch of experiences from other trans people that eerily paralleled my own. Like when you're reading words on from somebody else, and it's like exactly the words in your head to describe things you've been trying to describe for decades. Ooh, I did not something over. But
It's all good. I'm knocking things over all the time when I'm doing this show, so don't worry about it.
Time when Texas did the abortion ban, I
Oh,
decided.
you're on. You got muffled again. It's a little bit back
Sorry,
off the speakers a little bit.
sorry, I'm a little excitable. I don't talk to people very often.
No, don't worry about it. That's what the internet is good at. Giving people an opportunity to talk and socialize without having to go outside, which I personally love because I do not like going outside in the winter especially. And we are fast approaching very cold weather, and I will not be going outside. I've already said I'm not doing it.
Oh yeah, it was trying to snow down here in like the Enumclaw area of Western Washington, and it did snow like further up north, so it's that time of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they came off with the abortion bounty law in Texas, I figured it would be only a matter of time before they came at Planned Parenthood, so I decided to pull the trigger, and I'm really glad that I did, considering like all of the crap we saw with like all of the anti-trans crap just ramping up. And yeah, so I mean, it's really cool to see people out there who actually legitimately care, and I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I don't, I think we're at a weird point, because, it would have been really bad if these elections did not go the way it went. Like, I hope people understand, like, I know a lot of people, there are people, especially, on the left who feel like, um, you know, only so much you can do electorally, which I agree. And electoral politics isn't everything, which I think it's very important. But yes, I agree, it's not everything. But I think you need to also look at it as like a gauge at where the broader public is. And I know, when I was talking with Alejandra before, it's true that enough people, the majority of people, don't stand up against these issues. But also, you also have to look at it the other way, where like, at the same time, the vast majority of people said we don't agree with your framing of these issues because we're not going to vote for it. Vote for you for this. It's just weird that you're obsessed with like this stuff. Like right wingers obsessed with like, you know, demeaning and defaming LGBTQ people. So I think I think this is a good sign. Honestly, I really do. It shows at the very least that it's a losing battle for them. And the fact that they are doubling down is extra delicious because it just means more loss for them in the future.
Yeah, just outright rejection would be the best option, honestly. But
Yeah.
there are good signs. Like, I work in a fairly conservative-ish part of Washington has a lot of conservative, like, smaller rural areas around like the 3 or 4 big blue counties. And even in the blue counties, you'll still run into a decent mix. But even the conservatives here, like, I'll see a Trump flag on one house, and right across the street, the LGBTQ flag, with the trans colors and everything on it, like on the same fucking block. So, and I work with a lot of conservative coworkers, and they'll when they hear things from like the right wing, usually I'll hear somebody pop off with it around the shop. I haven't heard anybody talking about like trans people being groomers or any of that crap. So I feel like that's a good sign. But
I think the most. I'm sorry. I thought there was a second where you cut out, so I thought you were. Continue, please.
Oh no, I was just saying that Washington is one of the better states to be in for trans people. So
Listen, I would say this too. Like, the real, like, what we're seeing now. I mean, obviously they're still trying it with people, with gay and lesbian and bi and other identities within the LGBTQ community. They're still trying it, obviously, but it's a lot better than it was, decades ago. And that's because people found out that, oh my God, I know a gay person, I work with a lesbian, I have a family member who's coming out. And little by little, as they realize that, oh, they're just people like me, there was less pushback against them. Now, the trans community is obviously much smaller. I forget what the percentage of Americans that identify as trans is, but it's very, very small, which makes their focus on it even more ridiculous. Like, just let trans people be. Like, why are you focused on this, on attacking such a small group of people? But I think it's taking longer because people have less experience, less in person, less socializing with trans people. And as the American public realizes as time goes on that, oh, I know a trans person, I'm friends with a trans person, I work with a trans person, oh my God, a family member is trans, and they realize, oh, wait a minute, they are just like me, I think we'll see the same thing. I do think it will take, and it has taken much longer because of that. It is a smaller population, so there's more likely that people do go through their lives maybe not interacting with trans people like they would with people who are gay or lesbian. But I think it's heading that way based on what we've been seeing. It's just going to take a little bit longer.
I would agree, and you actually see it a lot more in the younger generations too. Like you said, you're like 36, right? You grew up in the. Yeah, I did too, and I was talking to my buddy about like how obvious all of the signs that I'm trans are looking back, and I'm like, I feel kind of dumb for not seeing it sooner. And he said, well, why would you? We grew up in the era of that's gay. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
when I was in high school, the F word was frequently used, and not even like, I mean, obviously it's a slur against gay people, but I assure you that the vast majority of those kids did not realize it because they were, well, some of them did obviously when they were using it against someone who was gay, but there were also people who were using it who didn't even realize where it came from and just used it. And little by little, I think that word has been used a lot. I mean, you certainly hear it a lot less now. I mean, I'm not on the in high school anymore, so I don't know if it's still being used by teens, but I don't think it's being used, at least not to the degree it was when I was a kid in the 90s and early 2000s.
When I used to work in restaurants, I'd actually have to work with a bunch of high school students, and they're kind of where we're at with it now. I'm like, that's not really cool to say, man, which, and I think that speaks to your earlier point of it kind of going away, because, we grew up and we learned that's not cool to do, and everybody else is ahead of the curve on that because they had all the information on it. So, you know what I mean? That's right. Why think like teaching this stuff in school is so helpful, because if I had had any knowledge of any of this, I would have been in a lot healthier mental state a lot sooner. You know?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I remember. Oh, how prevalent the whole like no homo was. I remember that. It was like a constant, and like, yeah, I don't think that's even a thing anymore. I don't think I've even heard anyone say that anymore. It's like completely passe. I mean, I'm sure there are still rampant homophobes who say stuff like that, but in terms of like the regular like modern day vernacular with young people, I don't hear it.
Well, like I said, I'm in a conservative shop, so I'll hear them like say, make homophobic jokes here and there, but not nearly to the degree that they used to. And like, that's the worst that I hear of it. So, I mean, it sounds like it's in a pretty good spot to me.
Right. Right.
And moving better anyway, but
I agree. I think things are going in I mean, they all, the wheels of progress continue to turn, right? I mean, there's bumps in the road, but you can't fight. Oh my God, I feel like I was about to burst out in a Hairspray song. Do you know that musical Hairspray?
I don't watch musicals, even though I really should like them. There's no appeal to them for me. It's weird because I used to be in band and I love music, so you'd think I'd be, and I love campy films too. And like that's what musicals are.
Right. I mean, I'm over the years I've come to the conclusion, like when I was younger and I was more of an angsty teen, I tried to fight it. But no, without a doubt, I like musicals. And I was about to burst out and You Can't Stop the Beat from Hairspray, which is a great movie, first of all. Not the non-musical version, the John Waters film. And then the musical Hairspray is also great too.
Well, I may have to give it a look one of these days. I'll give anything a try once. As long as it's entertaining, I'm down. I really need to watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show because I'm a huge Tim Curry fan. I've seen like practically every movie he's ever been in.
I gotta say, for someone who's really into musicals, Rocky Horror Picture Show just never. Maybe I gotta watch it again. Maybe it's been a long. I probably haven't seen it since I was that angsty teen in full, at least. So maybe I gotta give it another try. But it was never one that did it for me. But I'll have to give it another go.
I've seen the Time Warp song because in band we did that for one of our marching band routines. We did that song. So Time Warp is a classic in terms like that's like I mean, here I go saying Rocky Horror Picture Show wasn't for me, and then immediately going Time Warp is amazing. What are you talking about? If that song is any indicator of how the rest of the film is, it sounds like it'd have a very rock and roll soundtrack, and that's my jam. So. Oh
no, yeah, that's probably why I like the songs. I got to give the actual whole musical a try again. No, but great call. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the kind words you said up top. Really appreciate the discussion we had in the middle, and really appreciate the musical discussion we just had to to cap it off.
Just two quick things.
Oh yeah, of course. Please feel free.
One, I would very much so like to recommend for your scam economy a guest, Stephanie Sterling from the Jimquisition, because they've been doing games journalism since like all the way back on what's that? The Gamergate shit.
I remember. Yes, I remember. Yes.
Yeah. And they covered they covered loot boxes and how those are basically gambling mechanics. They cover the aggressive monetization of like, especially on like phone games, the shitty work practices and abusive cultures of like Ubisoft and Rockstar and Activision Blizzard. Recently when they tried to make NFTs with video games and gamers just flat out said fuck that, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh yeah, gamers have been very good on the anti-crypto.
Surprise! Yeah, because gamers are kind of I would call myself a gamer, but like it has a negative reputation for a reason, sadly.
I think we're seeing two things here actually with that though. I do think that because obviously our whole discussion about younger generations, I think gamers are also obviously becoming more progressive. Obviously, it's still there's still issues,
But
but then on top of that, with crypto specifically, they already fought this fight and lost with like downloadable content, and they've already given into okay, that's just a part of video gaming now. And now they see something even more overtly nefarious. And that's why I think they're like, whoa, this is like downloadable content times 1,000 on steroids. And we don't want this shit. And I think that's why they've made their stand with that.
Yeah. So I thought that. Oh, and the other thing too is they do wrestling. They're doing
What was that?
They do the other thing too is Stephanie Sterling does wrestling.
Oh yeah, they're a wrestling fan.
No, they do wrestling. It's I think it's some like smaller indie circuits in London that they're doing shows with, but like that would be another interesting.
What? I didn't know that. Amazing. Whoa. I gotta look into this. I did not know.
Yeah. Perfect scam economy guest, if you ask me. But
oh my God.
And to any of the queer folks in your audience, please, for the love of God, tell your story whenever you get a chance, because you never know who's listening, and some of us didn't get that information, and the sooner we could get it to improve our lives, the better. Genuinely. So it helps. Like how you, what you experience, what it feels like, how you dealt with ill feelings, all of that's super helpful. Like I try to go on to, for all the crap Reddit gets, there's a couple of forums where queer people will come in and try to ask for help and advice and support and all of that stuff, and I try to go on there and be like the most positive person that I can be, to a fair degree of success. I think, I should post here and there, but like not against anybody in the forum. So, but anyway, yeah. So glad to talk with you.
Oh no, great call. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Keep up the good work.
A lot of the fun parts were fun, and then the other parts were insightful.
This is fun for me, so yeah, you got it right. It's fun.
Okay, good. I didn't want it to make it seem like the more serious discussion was something to take lightly. But yeah, please call in again. This was great. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt. It's Tony from Texas.
Hey, Tony from Texas. Oh, can I pull your feed up on the screen?
Sure.
Oh, what happened here? It's not coming up. There you are. Hello, Tony. How are you? What would you like to talk about today?
Well, first, let me thank you for having Alejandra Caraballo on. That was an excellent interview, and
thank you. And you don't have to be so smug about perfectly pronouncing her name and really digging it into me. I get it.
Well, Zoe comes on to correct you on your French, and even though I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker, I do have spent most of my life amongst fluent Spanish speakers. So.
Oh, right, Tony from Texas, right? The wheels didn't turn in my head until you said that. Yeah.
Mexico.
I mean, I should also half the family is Spanish and from South America. The half that married into, but half nonetheless.
Yeah.
So I should probably better. I probably could do the accent better, but I always feel like if I don't do it right, then don't try it. Like if I don't do it perfect, then it sounds weird to try it.
I like practicing accents. But I do also have to say I fully second Charlie's recommendation about having Jim Stephanie Sterling on. I actually have been playing. I called into ESPN a few weeks back to suggest that Emma have somebody on to talk about esports, and then it occurred to me it would be great to have you and Stephanie Sterling on ESPN to talk wrestling, because Stephanie Sterling is also a pro wrestler, in addition to being incredible at covering a lot of overlapping topics that you cover.
How long have they been a professional wrestler for? Because I'm
Years.
familiar with them, but I did not know this.
Yeah, for years. I mean, a lot of times, for as long as I've been following the Gymquisition, they do little like blurbs and event info stuff at the beginning or end of like whatever video essay or coverage that they're doing on their channel. So I've always known Gymquisition as wrestler and games journalist.
Oh wow, okay. I guess I was not plugged into that world for the Gymquisition universe for a while. Because I gotta say, throughout my life, since I was very young and still to this day, there is a little part of me that says, just sign up for wrestling school, man. Do it before it's too late. I have no aspiration. I'm as you all know, I'm short. I have no belief I would be anyone big, but just for my own pure enjoyment, just a hobby. Just do it. And there's a little part of me that still says do it, but then there's a bigger part of me that says, God forbid something happens to me and my children are left without me being able to.
Well, I mean, I go rock climbing not so that I can like ace it in like rock climbing comps or like go free solo El Cap. I do it because I like scrambling up a wall and getting
but
some
you know what? All those extreme sports are in my opinion much different than combat sports. I think you could probably break something, but you can be completely put out in a combat sport. Do you know what I mean?
I used to do judo because it was a fun, engaging thing to do. What I'm saying is I support and encourage your desire to do wrestling for the fun of it. I think that's a good and healthy.
I realized where you were going with it, and then I realized what I was doing, where I was saying, I want to do this thing, but I'm going to now give myself every reason not to.
Oh, story of my life. Man, what was my original thing? Oh, this is really, I guess, more of a Sunday night call-in thing, but have you seen the Nova special on crypto?
The Nova special? No.
Nova put out a special on crypto. I was taking care of my parents, and my dad was watching the TV and put on this Nova special.
Wait, what's Nova?
Nova, like the Discovery, like it's one of the branches of like Discovery Channel, one of their series, the Nova series. It's one of the ostensibly like educational TV type.
Oh, like a PBS affiliate?
No, it's not a PBS. It's under the Murdoch umbrella now, being that like Murdoch owns like all of Discovery and History Channel and Nat Geo and all of that. Like it's a Rupert Murdoch product, but it's one of those things that was like ostensibly started as an educational type series, and that's what it portends itself to be. But just it was an hour long of faff, like so much. Like I had to look up like when this thing came out, and it was like earlier this month. Like when I watched it with my dad, like I sent you a link on Discord. Like while he was watching, I was like sitting at my computer, and I was just like, so I was like, I have to message Matt about this. This is such bullshit. And I just, it was, it was framing itself as like skeptical about crypto, but it kept calling it cryptocurrency, and it kept referring to it as a money, and it kept like giving a lot of like half information and kind of half truth shit that, you know, it was very both sidesy to the whole, you know, oh, so much of this is all still up in the air. And it's like, no, like this shit is like this castle built in quicksand is like crumbling around people's ears right like all this year. Like this is a hot mess, and you're treating it like it's something that's like has some sort of like potential or argument beyond, oh hey, like these people are scamming. It was just real. I don't know.
I gotta check it out from what you're saying. Oh, geez, I gotta check it out.
I mean, I might have just been being sensitive because I like am so tuned in to like actual like critical coverage of these things, but I don't know. Like I thought it just stank. It was a very polished hour of stank.
Got it. I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm already putting it on my list of things to do, which
yeah,
I don't
you
even know anymore.
I call in, I add to your to-do list.
Yeah, I have a list of things to do that is, oh my, I really don't know what to do anymore. Will I ever get to everything on this list? I have no idea.
You know, you just life is always going to be too short to do all the things. So you just try to do the most you can.
Just try your best. That's right.
Well, for all that, you're doing a great job. I think, and the community thinks so. You keep it up. Chat. Thanks so much for all the love. And let's keep round out with another couple of great calls. I don't know if I haven't seen Cameron in chat, but you know, could sure use a goofy impression right about now.
Oh, there we go, Cameron. We got an open call for you to call. Thanks so much, Tony. Have a great night. Really appreciate it, as always.
Likewise, Matt. Take care.
Have a great night. Bloop, bloop. Let's go back to... Oh, just lost him. I'm not quick enough sometimes. Not quick enough. I snooze, I lose. I forgot to thank the patrons, the new patrons. Let me take a few more calls, and then I'll do that. Oh. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey Matt, it's me, Rem, I'm calling from Oregon. Can you hear me fine?
Hey Rem, I can hear you. Can I bring you up on the your feet up on the screen?
Yeah, I can bring you up. That's fine.
I was hearing you fine. Now your voice sort of just I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. Just it's slowly like I can't even think. What time is it? Jeez, I don't even. Why am I so? It's not even that late yet. Why am I so out of it? What was it to talk about, Rem?
What was it? I had something specifically to talk about. Well, it's just nice to be back in the PNW, I suppose. I did miss it a lot.
Where?
The PNW, the Pacific Northwest.
You weren't there for a while?
Yeah, I was living in Baltimore for a little bit.
Oh, right. I think I remember you saying that.
Yeah. And then now I'm back here, in at least in Oregon, and I'm having a good time because I'm living with some trans people, and they've provided me with some housing, and I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, hold on, I'm sorry. What's going on here? Sorry, I had a tech issue for a second. I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I've taken up housing from some trans folk who let me stay here.
Oh, good, good, good.
And
I'm glad things are going well. It seems. Or
for sure.
am I accurately
Yeah. Things are
understanding? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
yeah, for sure. Things are fine. I went to a gay bar and saw like a drag show. That was fun. Um, of course, some folks brought up the scary stuff that's been happening, um, and always making me nervous. It's making me feel like I need to start seeing some more lefties armed and protecting some clubs. Um, it's always on my mind.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be. I mean, I gotta assume that everyone who is, been going to any sort of establishment like that over the past couple of weeks has had that on their mind. I mean, it's just human nature. Um, it sucks. It sucks that that's the case. Honestly, I mean,
I was getting a little depressed where I was kind of just blurting out all the time in front of random people. I'm like, they're killing us out there, and I don't know if they know what I meant, but I don't know. But I'm getting very annoyed with how Elon is getting rid of all my favorite lefty Twitter accounts, like Chad Loader and Visual Peace sitting. They're great journalists, anti-fascist journalists.
What were they? I still don't even know. I mean, obviously, it's going to be something that seems like bullshit, but I'm trying to even understand what was the tweet that got each of them removed. Like, what was the infraction? I still don't. I still
I
haven't been
don't
able to
know.
find it.
I don't think if you can't find it, then no one must know because I haven't known much. I haven't been on Twitter a whole lot lately, but I've always been seeing everything that Alejandra Caraballo posts. I love that you had her on. She's amazing. She's one of my favorites. She has some banger tweets. If you don't follow her on Twitter, you should definitely follow her on Twitter. She's always keeps us all up to date on anti-trans terrorism, basically, from Walsh and all of his fashy friends. No, I have nothing really to add to all that. It's just frustrating, and I can't wait till Twitter actually finally dies right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's not. I don't think it's gonna die. I think people are. I think he's gonna be forced. If things continue to go this way, I need to be careful because I don't like to
Right.
speculate exactly things like this because it's not like foreseeable. You can't tell in terms of anything could happen. But if things continue to go the way they're going, he is going to be forced to make some very hard decisions. And that is keep tanking Tesla to fund Twitter, which
Right.
he might do. I mean, he might be one of those guys who refuses to admit defeat, so he'll do everything possible to not do that.
For sure.
Or he'll feel the need to sell at a fire sale, like sell at well below the value of Twitter, and I could see that happen too, quite frankly.
For sure. I am enjoying the dunking on Musk very much, but
He's completely ruined himself. He
I
has
think so.
completely ruined himself. It doesn't matter. Like people should understand this. Like it doesn't matter if he turns Twitter around or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Financially, like it cannot in terms of their status financially, he has ruined himself. He was once a figure seen by all as a political, and I mean, obviously, this country has a sick obsession with the wealthy. So obviously, this isn't my feelings on him, regardless of whatever his politics are. But America loves a rich person because they view it as a success story. So he had, because that was his only identity at the time, at least to the broader public, he had a lot of people who thought of him in a positive light. And since that has happened, there has been a number of surveys and such that have come out to show that is quickly dropping. Even the view of his companies like Tesla are falling quickly. Even among investors, like people who don't care about politics, they're just strictly like, I'm talking about like stock market, people like that, people who strictly care about what you're doing being good for the value of the company. They have completely voted no confidence in him. He has ruined his stature completely.
I think so. I mean, he may have ruined Twitter, but I don't know what that even means, honestly. Because Twitter's always been kind of shitty at protecting trans people anyway, and so it's just the fact that it's getting worse, it's kind of like we're numb to it.
Yeah,
We're always numb to the hate. I mean,
yeah. I mean, to me, like, it should be pretty clear that if you specifically go after a specific individual with harassment, that should be a clear, like if you want to be some free speech advocate and let certain shit fly on your platform, at the very least it should be like, and I'm not, this isn't my personal opinion, I'm looking at it from like his point of view. At the very least it should be like just a broad, you shouldn't be able to go after specific people. And that's clearly what a lot of these people did. I mean, that Jordan Peterson specifically targeted for absolutely no reason. What's that actor's name? Give me a second.
no worries.
Elliot Page.
Elliot Page. Oh yeah.
Jordan Peterson targeted him.
So mad at him.
for no really horrible things too. It wasn't even just like some off the cuff normal, like not normal, but your average off the cuff right wing response to trans people. It was really brutally disgusting.
Yeah. It was just it was a video all specifically whining about that, and she mutilated her breasts.
Yeah, that's a very good Jordan Peterson, by the way. Wow, that was on point. Yeah, I mean, listen, like that should be clear. And listen, one thing I agree with actually, and I know some of you might disagree with me, and that's fine.
Okay.
But I do think the lifetime bans aren't necessary in general. I think it does at least put forward a more fair playing field if no one was suspended for a lifetime. If you should, I think to put a certain time frame on it, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, and then the account gets reinstated. But then you must immediately act on the account if they do something that once again violates that policy. Another 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, and then repeat over and over again. Because I do think, lifetime bans, I get the argument for them. I also think people could change, and, this probably doesn't work for, like, the hardcore right-wing influencers, but in terms of, like, your average person who says something and gets banned, and then maybe they go through a change in their life a year down the line, 2 years down the line. They could be someone different. They could be. So if he just was against the lifetime ban, I'm fine with that. But
I guess he's
to
kind of banned. He's kind of against it. He won't let Alex Jones back on, and it's because of this personal thing that happened to him.
That's the funny thing. The Alex Jones, like, to me, you know what? Someone says, Sid says Matt wants Alex Jones back. You know what? For me, if you want to have this free speech platform and let everybody back, but still hold these policies to make sure it's still a safe space for people, yeah, let Alex Jones back. And then immediately when he comes back and violates the policy, which he will do in his first tweet, you will ban him for that time frame once again. And then let him consistently out himself as still being who he is to even people who deny it because, you won't give him a chance. I mean, again, would I run my platform that way? I don't know. Probably not. But, I am for, letting people change and giving them that chance.
Right, right. I just don't like how Elon is basically treating Twitter like it's some sort of country. It's like a digital country and he's a digital dictator. And I just, what is he doing? It does mirror Trump's presidential run and his campaign and his run. It's very strange how similar that is. I didn't realize it until I was like kind of, you were kind of piecing things together like a couple weeks ago. I can't remember.
Oh, he's a full blown right winger. He is a full blown, absolutely full blown right winger. Any idea
Yeah,
that he's
mask off.
not, any idea that he's not is like just absolutely. I mean, just look at who he interacts with. It's all he sees. Uh, Literally, his first weekend owning Twitter, he posts a wild, crazy right-wing conspiracy from a widely discredited news source. I mean, the dude is deep. The dude is deep. And any advertiser who thinks about, you know, who's thinking about advertising should remember all this stuff of who he is.
Yeah, a few folks on Twitter that are still up there are always posting bang tweets about Elon Musk's lies, his free speech nonsense. It's not free speech at all of his scandals. It's just really great. I'm glad people are pushing it out there. It's popular. And I hope it gets to where Elon's like disliked actually. It'd be nice. That I guess it won't happen. Same thing with Kanye and all those other fascist losers. I don't know. I don't know what their problem is. I don't know what they're so obsessed about. I guess their own egos. I don't know.
Right. Well, Rem, thanks for the call. Great conversation as always. I know I say this to everyone, but literally all my like that first caller who talked about what a great live chat I have. I got great callers too, like, and it's too good. Like, please give me someone who sucks so I can spar with them a little bit. Have a great night, Rem.
Yeah, all right. Fine.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. What did you want to say?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
All right, take care.
Take care.
That's not to say whoever was trying to call in before should not try to call in. I'll take one or two more calls. Let me before I forget. Let me take. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Spacco.
Hey, Spacco. What would you talk about?
Well, I thought it'd be a really crummy call because you said you really wanted a crummy call. So,
but you can't. No, you're not gonna be able, I don't think you'll be able to do it. You're not gonna be able to. I don't know if you're that good of an actor.
That good of an actor. So
you would have to really, one of the best call quality callers would really have to dumb down their content quite a lot to be able to play the role that I'm very good
at I'm very good at dumbing things down. I think I could be very dumb. Be a very dumb person. First, I'm so glad you had Alejandra on, because some of the things that she has experienced and done were exactly the things that I have wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about tonight, and the super chat that I put in there was specifically it was partly because I wanted you to give her an introduction to me, to say Spacco's a regular guy. Please talk to him because she's overwhelmed with information, and so people don't respond to her, and she's another troll or whatever. And what I wanted to do specifically, because of her background in law and cyber law and the LGBTQ issues, was what are the strategies, legal strategies, that could be used by Boston Children's Hospital and Vanderbilt Medical in order to figure out, are there civil lawsuits that they can file, and who could they go after under which types of legal methods, because I feel like that there's no real strategy, that there's no pushback strategy from any organizations that have the kind of financial wherewithal to do something with this. And the point that I was interested in was, I knew from trying to follow up with those particular threats was that Boston Children's Hospital, the Children's Pediatric, it wasn't the hospital itself, it was like the Children's Pediatric Hospital Association and another group, they went to the Attorney General and said, we really want you to look into these threats as for a criminal case. But there wasn't any real type of, let's look at the way that this has been coordinated behind the scenes. Let's look at how it got amplified by libs of TikTok, how it's being funded, and then say, well, what can be done if it's not a criminal case? Since criminal cases, it gets into this, big issues about, well, is that protected speech or not? And no DAs don't want to take them on. But is there a civil case that they can then file, and who can they go after under what rules? And I know that both Matt Walsh and Tucker Carlson, these people are coordinating, but they're also anticipating these actions. And this is the thing that I was kind of really interested in talking about, is like the strategic understanding of how the networks work and how the attacks happen, like the Twitter bot attacks and those types of things. Nobody really, talks about them outside the few places that you and I maybe know, but they happen, and there's a coordinated action that is going on. And it's one of the reasons that I really liked her talk earlier on in your call. She mentioned a couple of things that she had seen, like the block list, but she mentioned the people behind the Twitter safety group, that they understand how things change, how somebody will say, well, we can see from the AI, they're picking up the N word, or if we say this, they'll know what to do. So they'll change it slightly so it'll get picked up. That's where the human understanding and being plugged in to the underground plans, like where you go to watch 4chan and you see that 8chan is planning something. And so you might have heard this. I think you were on the list that there were like 5,000 people that on a list that were Antifa or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I'm on that list.
Gonna go, yeah, you're on the list. I know you know. But
I do have to say, it does seem like it was lazily put together. It seems like they just went to someone's block list. Like there's websites that where you could publish people's block lists, and it seems like they just grabbed it was because there was some random accounts on there that had nothing to do with politics. So I didn't really take it seriously. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. But
this is the other thing about having somebody understands that it's not necessarily legal. There's political issues, there bot issues. For example, one of the things that I was thinking about the anticipation of this attack was it may not be designed to scare people off of Twitter. It's designed to flood a system that doesn't have the same number of people on anymore. So when Musk opens the floodgates and lets on all these other people, these were reported at the same time that the new Hitler people come on. Okay. And so this is the part where we're saying, oh, okay, so both sides do it. Okay, look, here's all these Antifas that are terrible. And we're seeing this because the automated system will just look at the self-reports, which are in bad faith, or we don't know who they're from, compared to the people who are maybe still on Twitter and looking at the various different, Nazis that have come back. And there was an article that came out in, let's see, where was it at today? It was about the person who was the head of trust and safety, who was talking about how he was first optimistic about the way that Musk had come on and he was doing things. And now he's seeing that he can't just get rid of the people, because the systems in place aren't thinking forward and aren't thinking strategically and aren't following the behind the scenes. Oh, there's the talk of here's how we're going to start focusing on, okay groomers. All right. And my questions about some of this is partly because I want to say, what is our goal for with Musk? Okay, what is it? I keep thinking of that line from The Sopranos, where his therapist says, what is my goal here? Do I end up having a healthy, mentally healthy mobster? I mean, it's like, I don't want Musk in terms of eating. It's Musk's definitions of what is free speech needs to be called out, shown that it's BS, and shown that he now has the only definitions that matter are the one that are in his head. And that you could show him time and time again that, oh yeah, well, what you think is free speech actually allows these horrible things that happen, but it has to be a policy, there have to be people behind it, and there has to be some kind of method in order to deal with it and remove it. And the issue could be, does anybody outside of his head have any influence on him? And we're seeing what has influence. And so far, the first influence that we saw was the financial influence, where my friends, in the civil rights groups that got together, the people from Free Press, and I wrote about that and included that in my last piece. Free Press, Color of Change, Media Matters for America, the Center for Countering Digital Hate. They all got together and they talked about this is the harm, and they talked about what happens if they don't have this in place, and that the advertisers, bought into it. Now, what I've seen now is there are still a bunch of advertisers that were on Twitter. And one of the questions was, well, why are they there? Well, they paid already and they haven't decided to leave. So this is the decision process. They're looking at, okay, am I getting any pushback? Like, is anybody buying? Is going to be one of the things. They say, well, or are they not seeing the horrific hate-filled posts next to their ads? Is anybody capturing that and then sending it to them and saying, hey, did you see your ad right next to this? Now, who's going to do that? Like, who's going to spend the time and energy to show the advertisers that this is bad for your brand because it's showing up next to your thing? Well, Musk's thing, there needs to be somebody to do that in order to prove it to them over and over again. And everybody's feed is slightly different. I mean, if I'm, following the certain people, I'll see, hate speech people in my feed. But if that's not who I follow, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna see those ads next to somebody saying, kill the Jews. Okay. So that needed to be something that needed to be done. Who was going to do that? And so I was talking on Mastodon the other day to somebody, which is very interesting. By the way, I just posted a link to the show on Mastodon with your name, and there's a couple of names that you have on there. I'm not sure which one's yours, but the blue check mark is the one I did with Alejandro. And I said it was great and check it out. And it was boosted. So I want people to start saying what it is that we can do. What are we seeing that has been done, that has been effective, and watch how Musk weasels out of it. and what we're going to do the next step. And she mentioned the issue, which was great. Again, I was so glad that she was on. She mentioned that perhaps Apple and might want to consider taking them off the store. So I went back and looked in the history about what was the story with Parler. Now, do you remember with Parler? This was Apple had told Parler, you need to have an implementation of a content monitoring system. And if you don't, then we won't let you store. And Google Play had the same situation. And they said, oh, yeah, we got one. And then Parler said, no, you didn't. Look at this horrible things. And they didn't get back on. So what happened was eventually they came up with something that met Apple's definition of what was content that was not correct. And like, what do they call it? I'm looking up here. Harmful or dangerous content encouraging violence and illegal activity and is not in compliance with the App Store review. Now, this is the point where Musk, if he got that kind of warning where they said, hey, this is this kind of content, in his head, he can say, oh, if it's not illegal or if it's not spam or whatever, that's one thing. But it's not his definition when it's the App Store. The App Store has laid out how they define this information, what they define as harmful content. Okay. And that might include certain types of things that are, legal speech, but they define it harmful. So that's why it's really important. Now, I think knowing how these huge corporations work, they give them multiple chances and they will say, and Twitter can come back and say, oh, we've got a content moderation system, but they don't enact it, or he ignores it like he ignores it in other cases. And the point of it is a kind of a club that can kind of work in a way, although they can still, just because new people can't get it doesn't mean, old people can't do it. Parler got around it by having it side loaded and through other different stores. But the other pressures that came in was for Parler was Amazon. Now, Amazon had the same kind of thing, but they were being hosted on Amazon. Amazon said, you have to have this or you can't be on our platform. And they whined about it and they lied about it. But Amazon said, look, here's the data and so we can see. Eventually, what these platforms do is they'll go through and they have some kind of, what do you call fig leaf or something that says, oh, we have it, but we're not really doing anything. We're taking a few people off. But nobody's, on top of them monitoring them. And if this had happened to like Facebook, Facebook has spread a lot of, horrible stuff too, but they have a system and they have moderators and they supposedly doing something, but with, but they're being profitable about it. With Musk right now, what we'll be able to see is that he has to define certain types of things. It can't all live in his head. And what he's playing, the game he's playing, and by the way, I've said this before, as I've worked with all these Silicon tech bros, and they have the engineering mindset is try A and then try B, and if that doesn't work, try C. And if you can keep alive, even though you're burning money, and eventually sell, then it's okay. If there's any kind of pressure on Musk, he will try various different types of tactics. And then when it fails, he'll pull back. Now, he's done it twice with Blue Check. And I think today was the day that he was going to reinstate it. And I think you put up a link earlier about his slideshow, like that he had about, what his slideshow, which was hilarious to me. Because I've, coached thousands of people on giving presentations and slideshows. And wow, was that weak. I mean, it was going to like advertising as entertainment and, the bots will pick this stuff up. He's got the
interesting thing, because there was something you said that I wanted to address before I forget. I like I like when you come on because and your tone is. People are even talking about your voice, how you speak. It's very easy to listen to. But with something you said about Facebook, all these platforms have, when it comes down to it, pretty lackluster to say the least. Content moderation policies. But the thing is, like, that's all Musk has to do. He just has to even pretend to care and put forward even the most milquetoast policies that just barely cover the bases, and he would have been fine. But instead, he's just refusing to do even that. And so this is, he reaps what he sows, whatever that might be. Whatever that might be.
I want that to be, keep pushing it to crash it. It reminds me a little bit of Trump, where it would be, he could do certain things and then his handlers would come out and said, well, he didn't actually say this, whatever. And then Trump would come on afterwards. Oh yeah, I fired him because I, know this, he would just admit it afterwards. He is doing somewhat the same thing. And Musk had a line on one of his tweets saying, "Whatever's the most entertaining is what I'll do." And I felt like he needs to hire a stand-up comedian to write his jokes for him. But he's like a teacher in a class. The jokes aren't good, but you're like, people are laughing, ha ha ha. He has the desire for this, attention, and also the juvenile understanding of both politics and how the world works is very obvious. And what I would like to be able to get out of this debacle that's going on is, again, focus on the harm that is coming out from social media that is very real and it's very obvious. But the only way in America right now that we can push to change people is to push to say it's financially going to hurt him, or it's going to hurt his reputation, and it's going to hurt this way because that's the only person he'll listen to. We're forgetting all the victims of this game that he's doing, who are then going to be attacked online, and they're going to be, threatened, etc. And as Alejandro said earlier, that is a suppression of people's speech and opinions. Okay. And I think about the I can't remember his name. I know his name. I don't know how to pronounce it. Imran from the Center for Countering Digital.
Oh, right. I know who you're talking about. Right. You go. I know who you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah. So he had this great global social media template. And a big part of it was, one, understanding that it's global, that like the laws in Germany are very different than the laws in the US, and that understanding that safety should be part of upfront of these kinds of situations, these kind of social media, transparency, accountability, and then the way that they would have like responsibility, where Musk owns the company. And as a relative of mine said when I was over Thanksgiving, he was like, he can do what he wants. It's his company, it doesn't. And if he doesn't care, if he can say, it's my definition of free speech, and I'll willing to burn $1 billion every I'll do what I want. Fine, he'll say, but it leaves out all the people who are being harmed during that time. Like, we're not even acknowledging that. And the reason that I wanted to talk to Alejandro about the threats to the hospital is because you could show the direct link of harm from Libs of TikTok, Matt Walsh, those people that led to the death threats, the bomb threats. And they would say, oh, well, that doesn't count. Yes, it does. That is something that is real harm. We should agree that there should be something done. and to just pretend like just because he owns it doesn't mean that there's nothing that will go back on him. We need to acknowledge that and do something about it. Now that we have it's almost like an opportunity that he's the personification of this failed idea of what he defines as speech. Other bigger companies are smarter and they try and throw it out like a moderation council. They try, but when you look in behind the scenes, you find that, and this was something that we learned from the whistleblower at Facebook, all of the types of decisions that Zuckerberg made were for engagement. It wasn't, anything. It was like it would be violent or whatever. He overruled in favor of that metric, even when they said, but this is, hate speech, or this is clearly these types of, harassment. And it was like, it just, lit them on. And the specific instance was Breitbart, Breitbart had the inside kind of world where up the moderators and say, hey, you're getting all these messages saying that we're terrible, we're spreading misinformation about this or whatever, but keep us on, and it was one of the most shared type of information. It was all over, and that was the decisions that were made, not because it was wrong, not because, even though it failed in the own policies that Facebook people had put together, only the engagement was the issue. And in Imran's, policy, his looking at having some sort of standards and regulations on the social media companies, they said there needs to be some sort of disincentive, a negative incentive to these companies, a price that they have to pay if they don't deal with this. And in Europe, in the EU, and Germany, they're actually going to be paying a price. In the US, we don't really have a good mechanism to do that. So we go through corporations. We go through, make Apple do the dirty work, make Google Play, have them kicked off that way, because we don't want to have the government to come in and say anything about this kind of harassment, targeted violence, etc., should be banned. We're having a real hard time with it, and I think that this is again an opportunity to have Musk as almost like the poster child of these failed ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have it on point right there. It's. I think it's just something that obviously will play out, and we'll see what. Because here's the thing. Right now, all he's done is basically show everyone who he is, and he's reinstated a number of accounts that have got suspended for legitimate reasons. And apparently he just unsuspended 60,000 more accounts. I'm not sure exactly who. I just saw a tweet from Michael Edison Hayden from the Southern Poverty Law Center. How two white nationalists, Patrick Casey and Alex McNabb, who were banned from Twitter, are now back as of today. And I think it's clear to people that this is the site he's going to run now, and this is what he wants. And I think,
yeah.
And I
you
think,
said earlier, you asked why was Chad Loader kicked off? There was just an article in the Intercept about this. This is a part where he's getting these ideas on it from Andy Guy. Andy No, right. And he was the one who was telling him that these are Antifa. And so that's who he's listening to. And that's who he's responding to. I look at his tweets, and it has that same kind of BS, I have the inside information, but it's actually a lie, that you would see with Trump, where he would say, he would agree with some right winger, who'd say correct or accurate or whatever, and it was like, that's bullshit. That's not what it is. So that's who is he's doing, and it is this juvenile idea, and you saw it with his politic things. It's like, well, we need to have different parties in charge of the different House, and the presidency is to have the checks and balances. It's like, hello, 10 years ago or 20. I mean, this is the childish view of politics, and I saw it a lot in the Silicon Valley kind of world, especially with people who have a tremendous amount of money and power, and who think that their ideas and how they can control their own fiefdom works in the rest of the world. It's no surprise that he's from the Peter Thiel kind of, worldview. That is when it goes out into the rest of the world, and they see that, oh yeah, well, things don't really work that way because I can't control the whole world. Then it kind of falls apart. And so I guess the other thing is I really want to see about not just this watch it and see how it happens. I want to specifically help target and bring out the issues that he has been championing and the false kind of narrative that he has about what speech is, and that it's not harmful, and that, if it doesn't hurt him or whatever, that really needs to be addressed. And I think the media is really bad at talking about this. And I think I've talked about this before, particularly when it came to journalists being threatened online and getting the kinds of threats where they can't, do their jobs, and it's nobody knows has a technical savvy, and the local police don't know what to do. This is a huge problem. I saw the former Washington Post editor. I saw it was like the head of NPR, I'm sorry, not NPR, PBS NewsHour. They're talking, and they were being interviewed about death threats that they got in their Washington Post newsroom. And they use this, oh, well, it's now part of the territory. And it's like, bull. They need to have a robust response that went after the people who were making the threats and do multiple methods of charging them. But they don't, because they know they're getting this kind of, well, I thought you were for free speech. And so they don't do it. So when I see somebody like Chris Hayes is one drives me nuts all the time, it is lumping their disagreements on policies with violent death threats and saying, well, that's free speech. And I think Alejandro said that the same as well. By the way, I think I'm going to take this entire clip and I'm going to run it through your entire clip when she was on, and run it through my AI from Otter so that I can have all the great things that she said in text. So people can read it, because like she said, it's hard to be nuanced about this stuff and go into detail. And I go nuts sometimes because I'm having this conversation in my head and I'm thinking, wait a minute, do people understand what's going on here? I think they do, but I can't explain it in 280 characters. And I really need people to understand that this is how they're manipulating the phrase free speech, getting liberals and free speech experts to come on to discuss this, when they should be really having on somebody who understands propaganda, who understands power, and understands the manipulation of a system that can respond to, bots and not humans, in order to change the narrative of an entire platform. And this platform is the centerpiece of what the news cycle is. And the media has a real hard time understanding that, yeah, that's the reason why when Trump got kicked off of it, things come down. And he had to get back with Truth Social, and now they're like reading it online again. Is this failure to have any kind of understanding, like a national strategy to understand how they're being manipulated by, forces of the right and other side, but not having a response besides a defensive one. There is no offensive one. There's no educational thing. There's even a fear to go after the people who are doing this, because the people are very, very aware of the way that the left will defend them by saying, it's free speech. And that's a part that I feel like I failed in, is not making it clear to people on the left just how dangerous this is, and that we need to do something versus sitting back and waiting until something happens.
Right. Well, Spocko, as always, thank you so much for the call. Really, thank you so much for taking over and hosting the show for the past 30 minutes. have a great night, my friend.
All right, take care.
Bye. Always love when Spocko calls in. He really does give me gives me a minute to after basically, hosting a 2.5 hour long show, he gives me a few minutes to just listen and rest my voice. I'll take one more call if there is. I saw people were trying to call in before. Let me, before I take the last call, let me actually make sure I read these. Just give me a second, caller, or I will take your call in 1 minute. I want to make sure I read these. I want to make sure I get to these. There wasn't that many super chats, and I don't. That's why I don't want to. Renee with the super chat. Don't go crazy with folding chairs, though, Matt, about the wrestling thing. All right. And then James Lindsay with a super chat. Sorries, can we be friends again? Well, you were never my friend, Mr. OK Groomer. I appreciate whoever. Oh no, the quartering is gonna see that and think that James Lindsay really sent that super chat, just like he really thought that Ben Collins sent the super chat to Keffels. Oh, and the patrons. Let me thank the latest patrons. I should have done in the first half. I'll have to make sure to thank these people in the first half again. When was the last episode of the show? All right. Thank you so much to Ian A, Jacob B, Cheeto, Jarrett G, Alex B, Portugoose, and Cranky Bookworm. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons. Seriously, cannot do this show without my patrons. If you can become a patreon.com/Matt Binder subscriber, please do so. And if you can't, please don't. Really, take care of yourself first. Only if you have some, disposable income that you'd like to use on for this. I would appreciate any patron supporters who can do it, and I appreciate anyone who cannot. I appreciate anyone who listens to this show, really. And over on Twitch, what did I do with Twitch? I forgot to say thank you to Dylan Burns, who about an hour ago rated the channel. Thank you so much, Dylan. And over on Twitch, I got to thank the people who subscribed there. Rebel Without a Cause resubscribed with Prime. They've been a Prime subscriber for 12 months. Supporting or feeding, subscribe with Prime just now. Thank you so much, both of you. A Social Communist resubscribed for 1 month at Tier 1. Subscriber for 9 months. And Valanova gave out 5 community gift subs. Thank you so much. Chisel just subscribed at 1 month. For 1 month at Tier 1, thank you so much. Well, got a bunch of new followers from Dylan. Thank you so much, Dylan. Nug Wrangler, resubscriber Prime, 11-month-long subscriber. Ponderosapine resubscribed for 1 month. Subscriber for 11 months. Let's see. Kaylee resubscribed for 1 month at tier 1. Subscriber for 2 months. Thank you so much. Brad Cordiero, subscriber Prime. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I hope everyone, by the way, enjoyed their Thanksgiving holiday if they are from the U.S. and celebrated. I hope you didn't miss me too much, being that I didn't do a scam economy on Sunday. It just made sense not to do one because obviously, with guests, it's going to be like this for the holidays because the timing of the holidays is just where they are in the week. It's going to be rough to get guests for some of them, especially with the Christmas and then New Year's holiday back to back like that. So what I'm probably going to do, I'll probably end up being able to record an episode the prior week of one of them, so I could release an episode that one of those weekends, and then we'll have another weekend where there isn't that scam economy episode that weekend. But I'll have something. I'm probably gonna pull some calls and stuff like that, so there'll still be some new content. Thinking ahead. What else do we got going on here? All right, let's take a one or two more, probably one more call based on how long we got. I'll take one more call right now, and also, who should I raid on Twitch after that call? Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You want the other caller who's on the air? I'll take you too. Just wait 1 second after this caller, because you both tried to call in at the same time before and after. I'll take your call too. So I'll take 2 quick calls here. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt. Josh from California. How you doing?
Hey, Josh from Cali. I'm doing good. What would you like to talk about?
First off, happy Thanksgiving. I hope yours was good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun. Got to spend time with the family, and any time away from work and just with the kids is always a great thing.
Yeah. Mine was interesting. I met some racist future in-laws. That was fun.
Wow, was it? I mean, that's certainly a common experience, but I don't know why it caught me off guard.
Yeah. So, I guess, the girl my brother's dating, they're probably gonna get married, and her mother and father were there, and I guess they work for the sheriff's department in Alameda County, and so within 5 minutes of meeting them, I was hearing about how Section 8 housing is terrible and the people who live in it are garbage. So, the typical Thanksgiving, I guess, in most households. But one thing I wanted to bring up real quick to add on to what Spacco said is, like, a lot of these advertisers are leaving, but also one of the reasons, Twitter's going to run into trouble with Apple and Google is most of their analytics teams, and I know I follow this really closely because that's kind of my field. They're gone. There's one team that had 15 people that did market research, return on investment for advertising campaigns. So if you advertise on Twitter and you run a campaign, they would provide you with the analytics on how many people actually saw your campaign and how many clicks that drove to your site and all that kind of stuff. That's one person now. It used to be 15, so they can't service any maintain anything or service any ad hoc requests. There's another that showed what that team that essentially did custom custom analytics for larger clients. That team is entirely gone. Their director's gone, and everyone below them is gone. And there's a third one that shows that did analytics that sort of are along the lines of what you're being seen next to, that where advertisers can find out like what kind of content they're sort of being embedded with, and that team's down like 80% of what it was. So
Oh right, yeah,
like,
I heard that advertisers who didn't even leave because of any sort of political reason left because they had no inside connection to plan their advertising campaign with at Twitter anymore because they all left or got fired.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Like all of their sales contact or like their marketing contacts are gone. So like just the people they sat on the phone with or whatever is just, no one's there to sell ad space or whatever anymore. Yeah, so that it's crazy. But one that I wanted to bring up is because it's already sort of coming up, like the Bay Area subreddit and stuff like that, is this the director of elections in San Francisco has been there for 20 years, and the official, so they're not renewing his contract. They're not renewing his contract. They're like opening it up to bid for the next election cycle, essentially, because I think he's a contractor, but like he's won it for the last 20 years or whatever, and I think they've just had a standing engagement. And the official reason given by the Board of Supervisors was diversity, because he's a white man, and so they need to, open it up to have more opportunity for minorities to be involved in elections, I guess, which sort of vaguely, I guess it sounds good-ish. Like, I don't know, it's when you're running elections, especially, and he's done like such a good job, it seems really weird. But anyways, that's sort of the official story. The unofficial from my brother, who's a reporter in San Francisco, or he's a news producer in San Francisco, is that this is revenge for the director of elections removing removing a Republican who wasn't eligible for the office she was running for from the ballot, and also looking into the residency eligibility of the head of the Board of Supervisors, because he purchased a house outside of San Francisco, and I guess the Board of Elections had to look into it, because if you don't live in the district that you're running for, you can't run for city council. So it's very like it looks like they're sort of starting to use diversity, like liberal politician. I mean, and not starting to. Nancy, your girl does this all the time, like kneeling in kente cloth and stuff like that. But
hey, leave Nancy alone.
But yeah, I mean, so it sort of seems like it's spreading, because I guess it's an effective tactic where they're just using diversity as a shield to say, oh no, see, we have these noble motives, and it's like, when it's personal political bullshit, as usual.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. Also, they often love to you use this sort of. I feel like sometimes it's done in a way where it's obviously not proactive. It's almost meant to needle the idea of them having to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll yeah. All right. Thanks for the call. Have a great night.
Yeah, man. You too.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, I'll take that one last call if that caller would like to call in. And while I do that, I'll check. Who should I raid, by the way? Who should I raid? I asked you all, and I missed. I missed who you all said. And here's the last call. Hey, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi. How's it going?
Hey, it's going good. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Mitchell from Utah.
Hey, Mitchell. And could I pull your video up on the feed, or you prefer
go
not?
ahead.
Okay, cool. Just I like to check. You know, never know. Where is Mike? There we go. So, what would you like to talk about?
Well, first I just want to talk about how the Utah teacher's licensing program is terrible because I'm suffering through math homework right now. Been trying to con all night to procrastinate a little bit.
Oh yeah. Oh, there we go.
Also to celebrate that this is the third time I've called, and it's the third apartment I've lived in that I'm calling you from, so that's fun.
Oh well, yeah. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I got into some drama with the roommates. They reported me and my brother to management about stuff without us knowing about it.
Oh, that's...
Management was all angry at us, and we decided we'd just find a different place to live.
Best to leave the situation.
Yeah.
That's smart, I think.
Yep. But just to go back to this math thing real quick, because it's bothering me, and I just want someone outside of my immediate sphere to know. So to be a licensed high school teacher, math teacher is what I want to do, in the state of Utah, you have to take really high-level math courses at university. So, like, right now I'm in differential equations, which is like, you know, in high school you can do like AP calculus, which is usually like calculus 1 at college. And so there's calculus 1, then there's calculus 2, which some high school will be calculus, AP calculus BC. And there's multivariable calculus in another class called linear algebra, and you need multivariable calculus, linear algebra, and then up here is differential equations. I'm like, why you got to learn all this to teach high school? It just makes me angry. It's too much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I have opinion on that one. But I could see what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. What are you currently studying to be teacher?
Yep. That is the plan. Been at it for too many years now. It's been a struggle.
How many years, if you don't mind?
This is year 7 now, I think.
Jeez, are you including your 4 years of regular college, or is this 7 years?
I have yet to finish my bachelor's degree.
Okay, all right.
I went through a bad depressive phase, and there's kind of like 2 years in there that maybe just don't really count.
All right, so then it seems like it's the normal amount of time.
I have been trying. But yeah, and not to mention that I started college compared to a lot of my peers because I did a mission for the LDS Church. So like I was in like my second year of college, and people I graduated high school with were like starting master's programs. That was just really awesome. But we all gotta take life at our own pace, right?
No, I
no
think
contest.
that's total. No, yeah, that's totally. Absolutely, seriously. I mean, everyone does their own. You know, it's your life,
right?
You know.
So anyway, for the actual doomed related things, I just wanted to chime in, kind of like what you were talking about with Alejandra, and kind of like, are we in a good moment? Are we in a bad moment? And like, there's lots of reasons for optimism, but there's also a lot of bad things going on, and like, sometimes it feels to me that we're almost in like the last like the last gasp, the really old style bigoted conservatism, where it's like, you know, like you talked about, we just the younger generations are accepting of like everything, and all the old style bigotry just isn't working the same way it used to. But then, you know, inside of that, even if this is kind of like the final moments, like, boy, it's a scary final moments, and you know, we can't give up and like think, oh well, it's just gonna end. Like, we got to keep fighting and keep, you know, working to keep ours and our own safe.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, but yeah.
I don't know. It's just all such a weird moment, you know? Like, we got a political party that, you know, is backing Trump and is, you know, he's going to run for president again, and who knows what's going to happen with the election go around if he's the winner.
I'm looking, I
that
think
primary.
I think you know, good. Let him run. Let him,
Yeah.
you know, he's going to I think it's if he's going to run, let him take these guys down. That's what he's going to do. He's going to totally wreck the field, and I'm here for it.
Sure, yeah, let them fight. Let them fight. That's always good. But I don't know. I'm a little concerned there's a repeat of the January 6th attack in, you know, 2025 or whatever, if Trump loses again. Because at like, you know, the Democrats just haven't really wanted to pursue, it feels like, the ringleaders, the people who really like motivated the attacks. I don't know. Maybe that'll change in the next year or two.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll, you know, time, and the current, you know, outlook of things changes very. Not the word I'm not looking for is rapidly, but randomly. Like there are discourse topics that are filling up the, you know, there are topics that are, I should say it like this, there are topics that are filling up the discourse for like months, and then all of a sudden something will happen, and then everyone will move on to a whole new thing, and it's like that happens enough times, and you end up in a completely detached discourse from what was going on just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. Like 10 years ago, what we were all talking about. I will say, since Trump became Trump, and, you know, as the politician in 2015, 2016, the discourse has sort of looked. He did a good job of keeping things sort of within an umbrella of topics.
Yeah.
But you can see us moving, and eventually, you know, eventually he will die. I'm not saying, you know, just from old age.
Right.
Least,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, that's all I'm saying.
He's an old
like,
guy.
He's an old
absolutely.
man. And then, you know, people move on to the next thing, and we'll see, I guess, right? We'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what Trump looks, what a Republican Party looks like without Trump as the leader.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not, he is. The base is not done with Trump. They follow him and stand for him, and that's who they, you know, that's who they want.
Yeah, I think probably some of the blindest people to the reality, Republicans, like, no, like, we stand for values, and like Trump isn't like the leader. Like, the Republican Party stands for things. It's like, in this moment in time of history, it is Trump's party. It goes where he says, right? So yeah, I mean, if these most recent midterms are anything to go by, you know, a Trumpless Republican Party just might be lost. We might have a new political realignment in America, which, if that's how that goes, that'd be pretty nice.
We'll see. Yeah, we will see. Thanks for the call.
Yeah. Thanks for taking me.
Noticed this is first time calling in, right?
Number 3.
Did you call in without video last time?
Nope. Called in with video every time.
What? I don't.
I just always have something going on
Oh,
behind
okay.
me.
So it's not just okay. It's not just trying to recall.
No.
Thanks a lot for the call.
No,
Please do call.
I don't.
I was
I
asking
think I've
to
called
say.
in like every other month or something. I don't often have something I want to say.
All right. Well, please do call in again. I appreciate the call.
Yep.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Matt.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks, that is the show. Who am I rating? I know I asked and people said, and who am I rating? Who's Rotted Ranch? Oh boy, is that? It could be fine. It could be it could not be fine. It sounds like it could be like, who knows? Lefty Streamer. Cool. So that's someone new. Maybe I'll do... Oh, I see some other suggestions coming in. I always love rating new people. So let's see. Oh, Tim Bob RNs resubscribed that for 1 month at tier 1. Subscriber for 11 months. Doomed, they said. Thank you so much, Tim Bob. Who am I rating here? Time for Tinfoil? I don't think they're on. I'll do Rotted. That's someone new. I always want to raid new people. That's a first. They're a lefty streamer. It's all, I think that all is lining up. Quite frankly. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Don't forget patreon.com/MattBinder. If you can, youtube.com/MattBinder. Subscribe to the channel there. Twitch.tv/MattBinder. Follow the channel there. Connect your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. If you'd like to give me your Twitch Prime subscription. What else? Doomedcast.com for the podcast version of this show. Follow me on Twitter for as long as that lasts, at Matt Binder. Oh, subscribe to my newsletter on my Twitter profile. If you're logged into Twitter, it's a single click. It's so quick. Definitely sign up for the newsletter. It's super important. No matter what happens to any social media platform, I'm going to launch this newsletter with content, and it doesn't matter. It'll go right to your email box. You can't miss out on what I've got to, my work and what I've got to say and do. If you subscribe to this newsletter, please, it's right there on my Twitter profile, twitter.com/MattBinder. What else? Well, that's it, I guess, for now. I will see you all next time on Doomed.